The Lullaby and the Wandering Stars. Once upon a time, in a quiet village nestled beneath a vast, star-strewn sky, there lived a young girl named Celine. The village was known for its endless fields of lavender and its ancient observatory, where the villagers would gather to watch the stars. But the true wonder of the village was the wandering stars, a cluster of celestial lights that danced across the sky every night, their movements as graceful as a lullaby. The villagers believed the stars were guardians, their light a reminder of hope and guidance. Celine had always been captivated by the wandering stars. Every evening she would climb to the top of the observatory, her eyes fixed on the heavens. Her grandfather, the village's stargazer, had told her stories of the stars' magic, how they could heal broken hearts, guide lost travelers, and even grant wishes. But there was one secret about the stars that no one knew, a secret that had been hidden for generations. One night, as Celine sat in the observatory, she noticed something unusual. The wandering stars, usually so bright and lively, seemed dim and sluggish. Their movements were slow and erratic, and their light flickered faintly, as if they were struggling to stay alive. Celine's heart ached as she realized something was wrong. She ran to her grandfather, her voice trembling with worry. "Grandfather, the stars are fading," she cried. Her grandfather's face grew pale as he looked at the sky. "The star's light is connected to the heart of the world," he said softly. "If their light goes out, the world will fall into eternal darkness. Someone must find the source of their fading and restore their light." Celine's heart raced. "I'll do it," she said firmly. "I'll find the source and save the stars." Her grandfather placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "The journey will not be easy," he warned. "You must follow the path of the stars, but beware. The path is filled with trials, and the truth you seek may be difficult to bear." Determined to save the stars, Celine packed a small bag with food, a lantern, and a star-shaped locket her grandfather had given her. She kissed him goodbye and set off into the night, her eyes fixed on the faint glow of the wandering stars. The path led her through fields of lavender, their scent filling the air with a soothing sweetness. As she walked, the stars' light grew dimmer, and the sky seemed to darken with each step. Soon, she reached the edge of the fields, where the path turned into a narrow trail that wound through a dense forest. The trees were tall and ancient, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The air was thick with silence, and Celine felt a chill run down her spine. As she ventured deeper into the forest, she began to hear whispers, faint and eerie, carried on the wind. The whispers grew louder, and soon she saw shadows moving among the trees, their forms shifting and writhing like smoke. "Celine!" the shadows hissed, their voices cold and hollow. "Turn back! The forest is no place for you." Celine clutched the locket tightly, her breath quickening. "I won't turn back," she said firmly. "I have to save the stars." The shadows lunged at her, their forms swirling around her like a storm. Celine raised her lantern, and the light drove them back, but they were relentless. She ran, her feet pounding against the forest floor, the shadows close behind. Just as she thought she couldn't run any farther, she saw a faint glow ahead, a clearing bathed in starlight. She stumbled into the clearing, her heart racing, and saw a small, ancient well at its center. The well was made of stone, its surface covered in moss and vines. But what caught Celine's attention was the dark, swirling water within it. The water was unlike anything she had ever seen, black and oily, with a faint, sickly glow. She knew this was the source of the stars fading. Selene approached the well, her heart pounding. She dipped the locket into the water, and its light began to flicker and fade. She knew she had to act quickly. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small vial of clear water she had collected from a spring in the fields. Her grandfather had always told her that the spring's water was pure and full of life, and she hoped it would be enough to counteract the darkness. She poured the water into the well, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then the water began to churn and bubble, the darkness swirling violently. Selene stepped back, her heart in her throat, as the water began to clear, its blackness fading away. The shadows around her howled in fury, their forms weakening as the light from the locket grew stronger. But just as she thought the darkness was gone, a figure emerged from the well. A woman with long flowing hair and eyes as dark as the night. She was beautiful, but her beauty was cold and menacing, and Selene felt a chill run down her spine. "You cannot destroy me," the woman said, her voice like ice. "I am the embodiment of the world's hidden pain and sorrow. For generations, people have buried their secrets and fears, and I have fed on them. You cannot erase what they have tried so hard to forget." Selene's mind raced. She realized the woman was right. The darkness was not just in the well, but in the hearts of people. She thought of the stories her grandfather had told her, of the struggles and sacrifices that had shaped the world. She knew she had to confront the truth, not just for the stars, but for the world itself. "You're right," Selene said, her voice steady. "The world has its secrets and its pain. But we also have hope and love, and that is stronger than any darkness." She held up the locket, its light shining brighter than ever, and began to sing. It was a song her grandfather had taught her, a song of hope and healing. As she sang, the light from the locket spread through the clearing, chasing away the shadows and filling the air with warmth. The woman's form began to waver, her cold beauty fading as the light grew stronger. She let out a final piercing scream, and then she was gone, her darkness dissolved by the light. The clearing fell silent, the well now filled with clear, sparkling water. Selene knelt by the well, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The locket's light was steady now, its glow warm and comforting. She knew the darkness was gone, and the stars' magic was safe. As she made her way back to the village, the forest seemed brighter, the shadows gone. The path through the fields was bathed in starlight, the wandering stars shining brighter than ever. When she reached the observatory, her grandfather was waiting for her, his eyes filled with pride. "You have done well, my child," he said. "The stars will shine brightly because of you." And so, Selene continued to sit in the observatory every night, her eyes fixed on the heavens. The wandering stars, their strength renewed, danced across the sky, their movements as graceful as a lullaby. Selene, the girl who had faced her fears and uncovered the truth, became a legend in her own right. Her story was passed down through generations, a reminder that even in the darkest times, there is always a way to bring light back into the world. And so, the village beneath the star-strewn sky thrived, its light a beacon of hope in the night. The wandering stars, once fading, now shone brighter than ever, and Selene, the girl who had saved them, continued to watch them dance, her heart filled with wonder and gratitude. The end. The Whispering Garden of Lost Names. Once upon a time, in a forgotten corner of the world, there lay a garden unlike any other. It was a place where the air hummed with secrets, where flowers bloomed in colors no one had ever named, and where the very earth seemed to breathe with a life of its own. This was the Whispering Garden of Lost Names, a mystical place where the forgotten and the forsaken found solace. It was said that every flower, every tree, and every blade of grass in the garden held the memory of a name that had been lost to time. Names of people, places, and things that had once been cherished, but were now forgotten. The garden was hidden behind a towering wall of ivy, its entrance marked by an ancient stone archway covered in moss. Few knew of its existence, and even fewer dared to enter. Those who did spoke of a strange, haunting beauty, a beauty that was both comforting and unsettling. They spoke of whispers that seemed to come from the very air, voices that called out names no one could remember. But no one ever stayed long in the garden, for it was a place that stirred the soul in ways that were hard to bear. One day, a young girl named Lila arrived at the garden. She was not like the others who had come before her. Lila was a dreamer, a wanderer, with a heart full of curiosity and a mind full of questions. She had heard tales of the Whispering Garden from her grandmother, who had spoken of it in hushed tones, as if it were a secret too precious to share. Her grandmother had told her that the garden was a place of healing, a place where lost things could be found again. And so, Lila had set out to find it, driven by a longing she could not name. When Lila stepped through the stone archway, she felt a change in the air. It was as if the garden had been waiting for her. The flowers swayed gently in the breeze, their petals glowing with an inner light. The trees whispered softly, their leaves rustling with secrets, and the air was filled with the faint, melodic hum of voices, voices that seemed to call out to her. Lila walked deeper into the garden, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and fear. She felt as though she were stepping into a dream, a place where the rules of the world no longer applied. As she walked, she noticed that each flower, each tree, and each blade of grass seemed to have a story to tell. She reached out to touch a flower, its petals a deep, shimmering blue, and as her fingers brushed against it, a vision filled her mind. She saw a young boy, no older than herself, running through a field of golden wheat. He was laughing, his face filled with joy, but as quickly as the vision came, it faded, leaving Lila with a sense of longing. She looked at the flower and realized that it held the memory of the boy's name, a name that had been lost to time. Lila continued to explore the garden, each step revealing new wonders. She came across a tree with silver leaves that tinkled like bells in the wind. When she touched its bark, she saw a vision of an old woman sitting by a fireplace, knitting a scarf. The woman's face was kind, her eyes filled with love. Again the vision faded, leaving Lila with a sense of warmth and comfort. As she walked, Lila began to understand the true nature of the garden. It was a place where memories lived on, even when the world had forgotten them. It was a place where the lost could be found, where the forgotten could be remembered. And she realized that the whispers she heard were the voices of those memories, calling out to be heard. But the garden was not without its challenges. As Lila ventured deeper, she began to feel a growing sense of unease. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, and the visions became more intense. She saw moments of joy and sorrow, love and loss, life and death. Each vision left her breathless, her heart aching with emotions she could not fully understand. At last, Lila came to the heart of the garden. There, in the center of a clearing, stood a tree unlike any she had ever seen. Its trunk was gnarled and twisted, its branches reaching out like arms. Its leaves were a deep, shimmering green, and its flowers glowed with a soft, golden light. At the base of the tree was a small stone pedestal, and on the pedestal rested a book. The book was old, its cover worn and faded. Lila approached it slowly, her heart pounding in her chest. She reached out and opened the book, and as she did, a wave of warmth washed over her. The pages were filled with names of people, places, and things that had been lost to time. And as she read each name, she felt a connection to the memory it held. Lila realized that the book was the heart of the garden, the keeper of all the lost names. It was a place where the forgotten could be remembered, where the lost could be found. And she knew that she had been brought here for a reason. As she stood by the tree, a soft voice spoke behind her. "You have found the heart of the garden." Lila turned to see a figure standing behind her. It was a woman, tall and graceful, with hair that shimmered like moonlight and eyes that glowed with the colors of the garden. She was dressed in flowing robes that seemed to be woven from the very fabric of the garden, and in her hands she held a staff adorned with a glowing crystal. "Who are you?" Lila asked, her voice trembling. "I am Seraphina, the guardian of the Whispering Garden," the woman replied. "I watch over the memories that dwell here, ensuring that they are never truly lost. Few mortals find their way here. What brings you to the garden, child?" Lila hesitated, then spoke from her heart. "I've been searching for something my whole life. I don't know what it is, but I feel like it's here. I want to find the lost names, the forgotten memories. I want to remember." Seraphina smiled gently. "The garden can show you the way, but it cannot give you what you seek. That is something you must find within yourself. The garden is a guide, a mirror of your soul. It will show you your memories, your fears, and your truths. But it is up to you to take the next step." Lila nodded, though she did not fully understand. "Will you help me?" Seraphina extended her hand. "Come, walk with me, and I will show you the magic of the garden." Together, they walked through the garden, the whispers growing louder with each step. Seraphina explained the mysteries of the garden, how it held the memories of all that had been lost, and how it was a place of healing and renewal. She told Lila of the Book of Lost Names, and how it was the heart of the garden, the keeper of all its secrets. As they walked, Lila felt a growing sense of peace. She realized that the garden was not just a place of memories, but a place of hope. It was a reminder that nothing was ever truly lost, that every name, every memory had a place in the world. At last, they returned to the heart of the garden, where the ancient tree stood. Seraphina turned to Lila and said, "You have found what you were searching for. The garden has shown you the way. Now it is up to you to carry its magic with you, to remember the lost names and the forgotten memories." Lila nodded, her heart full. She knew her journey was not over, but she also knew she was no longer alone. She had found the garden, and in doing so, she had found herself. And so, Lila left the Whispering Garden of Lost Names, carrying its magic with her. She traveled the world, sharing the stories of the lost names and the forgotten memories. And though she never returned to the garden, she carried its whispers with her always, a reminder that nothing was ever truly lost. And so, the Whispering Garden continued to thrive, its flowers blooming with the memories of the lost, its trees whispering the secrets of the forgotten. And somewhere, in the heart of the garden, Seraphina watched over the Book of Lost Names, ensuring that they would never be forgotten. The end. The Train to Nevermore Station. Part 1. Arrival. On some nights, the town's clocks forgot themselves and ticked between the seconds. If you stood very still, you could hear it. A thin, silver sound, like a violin string stretched across the dark. Arlen heard it first while lying awake, tracing the cracks in his ceiling with a flashlight. The house slept. His father's soft snore, the hum of the fridge, the dog's quiet dream bark. But outside, beyond the hedges and the old rail bed that split the town in two, something else was breathing. He switched off his light. The silence folded once. Then came a hum, low and certain, running beneath the floorboards of the night. It sounded like a train with no train attached. Curiosity won the argument with caution. Arlen slipped from bed, tugged on his coat, and crept through the back door. The dog opened one eye, decided adventure could wait, and went back to sleep. The rails behind the house hadn't seen passengers in years. Rust bit their edges, grass stitched the ties together. But when Arlen touched one rail, it was warm, as if something far away had just passed by. He followed the hum through frost-bright weeds, past the coal shed and the blackberry thickets, until the path widened and the world changed. A smell of coal smoke rolled through the mist. Then, as though painted into existence, an iron archway rose before him. Gas lamps lined a platform that hadn't existed yesterday. Their halos glowed like moons caught in jars. A brass sign swung from two chains, Nevermore Station. Arlen froze. He knew the word from poems and lullabies. It usually meant the end. But here, it sounded like a beginning. From the far end of the platform, a tall figure emerged. A conductor, long coat the color of stormwater, cap pulled low, a silver watch on a chain. He glided more than walked, the lamplight sliding off him like rain. "Good evening," the conductor said, his voice echoing through the rails. "First time boarding?" Arlen nodded. "Yes, I think so." Click. The conductor opened his watch. Its hands moved backward. "We are between 12 and never," he said, satisfied. "Plenty of room. Do you have your ticket?" Arlen searched his pockets. A marble, 3 paper clips, a dog biscuit, no ticket. The conductor smiled kindly. "Then, let's make you one." From thin air, he produced a blank card bordered by tiny stamped crows. Nevermore tickets aren't bought, they're found. But blank tickets need a courtesy. Solve a riddle, and the words will appear. Arlen swallowed. What riddle? What weighs nothing until you pick it up, goes as far as you can walk it, and is lost only when you refuse to carry it? He thought of stones, of names, of shadows, and then said, "Hope." Ink bloomed across the card like frost. Arlen Hart, Car B, window, purpose, to arrive. "Very good," the conductor said. "One more courtesy. Are you sure you wish to ride? Nevermore doesn't always go where you think. It goes where you mean." Arlen looked at the sleeping town behind him. He didn't know what he meant, but he'd been waiting his whole life to find out. "Yes," he said. A wind gathered the length of the platform, carrying sparks and stars. Lamps bowed as a sound like thunder exhaled through the fog. Then, the engine appeared. Not black, but the color black wishes it could be. A shimmer between raven wing and wet coal. Silver plates ran along its flanks, and on the tender, hand-painted words read, "Nevermore, don't be late." The train didn't clatter or screech. It arrived as quietly as a thought remembered. Doors opened with a sigh. Warm breath spilled from within. Arlen stepped aboard. The air smelled of rain on iron. Seats of deep blue velvet lined the carriage. Windows shimmered with places that weren't the town at all. One showed a harbor full of sleeping boats, another, a classroom covered in chalk dust, a third, a bakery at dawn where bread sang as it cooled. Passengers watched their windows like old friends. Some smiled, some wept softly, some simply waited. A woman held a snow globe of a city with no streets. A boy cradled a jar of lightning. An old man stroked an empty bird cage that hummed faintly with remembered wings. Arlen sat by his window, staring out at the mist. The platform lamps turned upward, floating like lanterns into the night. The train began to move, not forward, but away, as if the world itself slid backward. The conductor strolled the aisle, punching holes in tickets with a tool that cut tiny stars instead of circles. When he reached Arlen, he inspected the card. "You'll need your eyes tonight," he said. "There's a matter of timing." "What kind of timing?" Arlen asked. The conductor leaned closer. "The train is late." "Only a minute, but lateness multiplies here. If we're late twice, Nevermore Station might not appear at journey's end." "Can that happen?" "Stations are like stories," the conductor murmured. "They exist only if they're believed in." Lose faith, and we ride into Unarrive a Chill drafted through the carriage. The door to the next car shuddered open a sliver. Beyond it, blue light flickered like bottled lightning. The conductor's eyes shadowed. "Something's missing," he said quietly, "from the engine room." The reason the clocks stuttered tonight, Arlen's fingers tightened on his seat. "What's missing?" The conductor looked toward the glowing crack between the cars, voice dropping to a whisper. "The whistle," he said. "Someone's taken it." The lights dimmed, the rails moaned. Outside, the fog thickened until even the stars forgot their places. "And without it," the conductor added, "we may never arrive." To be continued. The Train to Nevermore Station, Part 2. The passenger without time. The train moved without moving. The world slid backward instead. Outside, fog pressed against the glass, folding in on itself like thought. Inside, the carriage pulsed with quiet magic. A dream pretending to be a train. Arlen turned the ticket in his hands. Its letters shimmered faintly, as if breathing. Arlen Hart, Car B. Window. Purpose, to arrive. He had boarded because he wanted to know where hope went when the world forgot it. Now he wasn't sure if he'd found it or if it had found him. Across the aisle, a woman rocked a snow globe that held a city with no streets. Each time she turned it, snow fell upward. A boy cradled a jar of lightning that blinked like a heartbeat. An old man stroked an empty bird cage, humming a tune only the cage seemed to understand. And at the far end, the conductor walked with purpose, coat trailing like fog. He punched stars into each ticket, one by one, and when he reached Arlen, he said softly, "Car C, that's where the trouble is." Arlen blinked. "Trouble?" "The whistle," said the conductor. "Without it, the engine cannot call the next world. We can move, yes, but we cannot arrive." The door between cars whispered open cold air brushed his face, carrying the scent of rain and ozone. Car C was quieter and stranger. The lamps here flickered like candles deciding whether to stay awake. Passengers sat in half-light, their faces half-dream. A seamstress with silver hair stitched two maps together as if trying to teach them how to hold hands. A sailor polished his boots so the sea wouldn't follow him inside. A little girl with freckles arranged drops of rain on the window in the shape of a house. Arlen stepped carefully between them. "Excuse me," he said. his voice small but certain. "Has anyone seen something that doesn't belong?" At first, no one answered. Then, from the shadowed corner of the car, a woman in a pearl-gray shawl said, "Someone took the whistle." Her voice had the softness of a bell rung far away. "It's the first sound and the last," she said. "The train can move without it, but it cannot arrive. Without it, we'll keep going forever." Arlen felt the train tilt slightly, as if it were leaning toward their words. He looked around, at faces full of patience and sorrow. Then his eyes found a boy sitting near the back. He was older than Arlen, maybe 14, with hair like wet rope and a coat buttoned to his throat. He stared at the fog outside as if he were reading it. His right hand fidgeted with something hidden in his sleeve. Arlen sat across from him. "Hi," he said gently. The boy gave a nod, polite, distant. "Is that yours?" Arlen asked. The boy's hand stilled. "What do you mean?" "I mean whatever it is you're holding," said Arlen, "because the train's missing something." Silence stretched. Then the boy said, "My mother's in the hospital. If I stay on this train, I don't have to see her." "Not like that." The lamps flickered blue. "I thought if I kept the whistle," he continued, voice trembling, "the train would keep going, and time would stop. I'd never have to get off." Arlen's heart ached. He thought of the mug still waiting by his kitchen sink, the one his mother had left behind. He knew the shape of missing people. "Maybe," Arlen said, "you don't need more time. Maybe you just need to be brave once." The boy's eyes shimmered like the windows of the train, reflecting worlds Arlen couldn't see. He opened his fist. There, resting in his palm, was a small whistle, carved from pale metal that gleamed like frozen thunderclouds. Arlen reached out slowly. When the boy placed the whistle in his hand, it was warm, heavier than it looked, as though it carried the weight of every beginning and end it had ever called. "Take it back," the boy said, "before I change my mind." Arlen ran, through Car C, past the seamstress, the sailor, the little girl painting her rain house, through Car B, past the glowing snow globe and jar of lightning, and finally to the door that led toward the front of the train. The conductor was waiting there, silver watch in hand, as if he had known exactly when Arlen would arrive. "You found it," he said quietly. "I didn't," said Arlen. He gave it back. "That's the only way things are truly found," the conductor said, taking the whistle. He fit it into a slot near the door, a notch that looked like nothing but had been waiting all along for a moment. Nothing happened. Then, a sound rolled through the cars, low and beautiful, not loud, but deep enough to settle in the bones. The whistle sang, and the train sang with it. The fog outside glowed brighter than dawn. The stars came back into place. The rails straightened, as though remembering where they belonged. Arlen turned to look at the passengers, all of them smiling, some through tears. Even the boy in the back car, who stood now with hands in his pockets, head bowed, but eyes clear. The conductor tapped his watch. The backward hands slowed, then began to move forward again. He nodded once. "Nevermore Station," he said, approaching. The train eased into stillness. Outside, through the window, the fog parted like curtains being drawn open. The station was there, not a trick of the mist this time, but real, bright, and waiting passengers gathered their strange belongings. Jars of light, cages of songs, maps sewn together. Each thanked the conductor softly and stepped off. When Arlen reached the door, the conductor punched one last hole in his ticket, and a small golden star fell through it, landing warm in his pocket. "Will I ever find this place again?" Arlen asked. "When you need to," said the conductor, "or when it needs you." He smiled. "We run on faith, Mr. Hart, and kindness keeps us on the rails." Arlen stepped down. The platform felt solid beneath his feet. Behind him, the train sighed like something that had finally finished a long story. The doors closed, steam coiled upward in soft white ribbons. And as the engine began to pull away, the brass letters on the tender caught the lamplight. "Nevermore, don't be late." Arlen stood there until the last note of the whistle faded. Then he walked home through the mist, his pocket warm with starlight and memory. Back in his room, the house was the same. The dog stirred, then thumped his tail without opening his eyes. Arlen set the ticket on the windowsill beside his mother's mug. He lay down and looked up at the ceiling cracks, which were, tonight, just cracks. And also, somehow, the rails of a world still running in its sleep. Outside, the clocks remembered themselves and ticked as they should. But every so often, between the seconds, Arlen thought he heard it, that silver hum along the rails. Not the kind that calls you away, but the kind that calls you home. The Tale of the Snowdrop Princess. Once upon a time, in a kingdom blanketed by eternal winter, there lived a young princess named Fiona. She was known throughout the land as the Snowdrop Princess, for she was born on the coldest night of the year, when the first snowdrop flower miraculously bloomed through the frost. Her hair was as white as freshly fallen snow, her eyes the pale blue of a winter sky, and her skin seemed to shimmer like ice in the moonlight. But though her appearance was cold, her heart was warm, filled with kindness and a deep love for her people. The kingdom of Frostvale was a place of breathtaking beauty, with towering ice castles, glistening frozen lakes, and forests of evergreen trees heavy with snow. But the endless winter was also a curse. Crops could not grow, and the people struggled to survive. The king and queen, Fiona's parents, had tried everything to break the curse, consulting wizards, offering treasures to the spirits of the forest, even sending brave knights to seek answers in distant lands. But nothing worked. The winter persisted, and the people grew weary. Fiona, now 16, had always felt a strange connection to the snow and ice. She could walk barefoot in the snow without feeling cold, and when she sang, the wind seemed to carry her voice across the kingdom, bringing a fleeting warmth to those who heard it. But she also felt the weight of her people's suffering and longed to find a way to end the eternal winter. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the stars began to twinkle in the frosty sky, Fiona stood on the balcony of the ice castle, gazing out at the snowy landscape. She whispered a prayer to the stars, asking for guidance. To her surprise, a soft voice answered. "Princess Fiona," the voice said, "if you wish to end the winter, you must seek the heart of spring." Fiona turned and saw a small, glowing figure hovering in the air. It was a snow sprite, no taller than her hand, with wings made of delicate ice crystals. The sprite's voice was like the tinkling of wind chimes. "The heart of spring?" Fiona asked. "What is that?" "It is a magical gem hidden deep within the Frostfire Mountains," the sprite explained. "It holds the power to bring life back to the land. But the journey is perilous, and the gem is guarded by the Frost Dragon, a creature as old as winter itself." Fiona's heart raced. She had heard tales of the Frostfire Mountains, a treacherous range where the cold was so intense it could freeze a person's breath in their lungs. and the frost dragon was said to be a fearsome beast, with scales as hard as diamond and breath that could turn anything to ice. But she knew she had to try. The next morning, Fiona packed a small bag with provisions, a warm cloak, a flask of hot tea, and a dagger her father had given her for protection. She left a note for her parents, promising to return, and set off on her journey. The path to the Frostfire Mountains was long and arduous. Fiona trudged through deep snow, her breath forming clouds in the frigid air. She crossed frozen rivers and climbed steep, icy slopes. Along the way, she encountered many challenges. A pack of snow wolves stalked her, their eyes glowing like embers in the dark. But she sang a lullaby her mother had taught her, and the wolves lay down in the snow, lulled to sleep by her voice. She faced a blizzard so fierce it nearly buried her, but she pressed on, guided by the light of the snowdrop flower she carried, which glowed softly in the storm. After days of travel, Fiona finally reached the base of the Frostfire Mountains. The peaks loomed above her, their jagged edges cutting into the sky like shards of glass. She began her ascent, her fingers numb and her legs aching with every step. As she climbed higher, the air grew thinner and the cold became almost unbearable. But she refused to give up. At last, she reached the summit, where a massive ice cave yawned open before her. Inside, the walls glittered with frost, and the air was so cold it burned her lungs. In the center of the cave, on a pedestal of ice, rested the heart of spring. It was a gem the size of her fist, glowing with a soft, golden light that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. But between her and the gem stood the frost dragon. The dragon was even more terrifying than the stories had described. Its scales shimmered like diamonds, and its eyes glowed with an icy blue light. When it saw Fiona, it let out a roar that shook the cave, sending shards of ice raining down from the ceiling. "Who dares to enter my lair?" the dragon bellowed, its voice echoing like thunder. Fiona stepped forward, her heart pounding but her voice steady. "I am Princess Fiona of Frostvale. I have come to ask for the heart of spring, to save my people from the eternal winter." The dragon tilted its massive head, studying her. "Many have come seeking the heart of spring," it said, "but none have been worthy. Why should I give it to you?" Fiona thought for a moment, then said, "Because I do not seek it for power or glory. I seek it out of love for my people. I would give anything to see them happy and free from suffering." The dragon's eyes softened, and it lowered its head. "You speak with a pure heart," it said, "but to prove your worth, you must pass one final test." The dragon breathed a stream of icy mist, and the cave walls began to shift and change. Fiona found herself standing in a frozen forest, surrounded by trees made of ice. In the distance, she saw a small, flickering light. The dragon's voice echoed in her mind. "Follow the light, and you will find what you seek." Fiona walked through the forest, the light always just out of reach. The cold bit at her skin, and her legs felt like lead, but she kept going. At last, she reached a clearing, where the light hovered above a frozen pond. As she approached, she saw her reflection in the ice, but it was not her own face staring back. It was the face of an old woman, weathered and worn, yet filled with wisdom and kindness. "Who are you?" Fiona asked. "I am the spirit of the land," the reflection replied. "The eternal winter is not just a curse upon your kingdom, but a reflection of the sorrow in your people's hearts. To break the curse, you must show them that even in the coldest winter, there is hope and beauty." Fiona nodded, understanding. She reached out and touched the ice, and the reflection smiled. The light grew brighter, enveloping her in warmth, and the frozen forest melted away. When she opened her eyes, she was back in the dragon's cave. The heart of spring glowed brightly in her hands, and the dragon bowed its head. "You have proven your worth," the dragon said. "Take the heart of spring, and may it bring life and joy to your kingdom." Fiona thanked the dragon and began her journey home. As she descended the mountains, the snow began to melt, and the first green shoots of spring pushed through the earth. By the time she reached Frostvale, the kingdom was transformed. Flowers bloomed, trees bore fruit, and the people rejoiced. Fiona placed the heart of spring in the center of the castle garden, where it continued to glow, ensuring that the kingdom would never again be trapped in eternal winter. And from that day on, the Snowdrop Princess was celebrated not just for her beauty, but for her courage and love, which had brought life back to the land. And so, the kingdom of Frostvale flourished, and Fiona ruled with wisdom and compassion, her heart as warm as the spring she had brought to her people. And every year, on the coldest night of winter, a single snowdrop flower would bloom in the castle garden, a reminder of the princess who had saved them all. The end. The Starcatcher and the Celestial Bridge. Once, in a realm where the sky was not merely a ceiling of blue, but a vast shimmering tapestry woven from starlight, there lived a girl named Amy. She was no ordinary child. She was a starcatcher, one of the rare few chosen by the heavens to gather fallen stars and return them to their rightful place in the night. Her village, nestled in the shadow of the towering celestial mountains, revered her as a guardian of light. Without her, the world would be swallowed by eternal darkness, for the stars were not just distant sparks. They were the very essence of dreams, hope, and magic. Amy's home was a humble cottage at the edge of the village, where she lived with her grandmother, a woman of great wisdom who had once been a starcatcher herself. It was her grandmother who had taught Amy the sacred art of catching stars, how to weave a net from strands of moonbeams, how to craft a lantern from the heart of a comet, and how to listen for the faint, sorrowful chime of a falling star. Every evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the first stars blinked awake, Amy would set out with her tools, her bare feet brushing through dewy grass, as her eyes searched the heavens. But one night, something was wrong. The stars were falling faster than ever before. They streaked across the sky like silver tears, their light flickering weakly before they tumbled to the earth. Some landed with a soft ping, like a pebble dropped into still water, while others fizzled out before they even touched the ground. Amy's heart clenched with fear. She had never seen so many fall at once. Her net grew heavy with their weight, her lantern dimming as if in mourning. She rushed back to her grandmother, her breath coming in quick, anxious bursts. "Grandmother," she gasped, bursting through the cottage door. "The stars, they're falling too fast. I can't keep up." Her grandmother, stirring a pot of starlight-infused tea, turned with a grave expression. Her eyes, though clouded with age, still held the sharp glint of someone who had once danced among constellations. "It is as I feared," she murmured. "The celestial bridge is weakening." Amy's fingers tightened around her net. "The bridge?" Her grandmother nodded. "The celestial bridge is what binds our world to the heavens. It is the path the stars walk upon to shine in the night. If it crumbles, they will fall forever, and darkness will consume all." A cold dread settled in Amy's chest. "Then, what do we do?" Her grandmother placed a weathered hand on her shoulder. You must journey to the bridge and repair it. Only a star catcher can restore its light." Amy swallowed hard. But how? "With courage, child. And with this." Her grandmother reached into a small wooden chest and withdrew a pouch of glimmering stardust, the last remnants of her own days as a star catcher. "This will protect you. But be warned, the path is guarded by the Shadow Weaver, a creature born of darkness that seeks to devour all light." That night, Amy prepared for her journey. She packed her moonbeam net, her comet lantern, and the precious pouch of stardust. She kissed her grandmother's wrinkled cheek, trying to ignore the way her own hands trembled. "I'll come back," she whispered. Her grandmother smiled. "I know." The journey begins. The first leg of Amy's journey took her through the whispering forest, where the trees murmured secrets of the stars. Their leaves shimmered with an eerie glow, casting shifting patterns of light and shadow on the mossy ground. Then came the howling. A pack of shadow wolves emerged from the darkness, their eyes burning like embers, their forms wispy and insubstantial, yet no less deadly. Amy's breath hitched as they circled her, their growls vibrating through her bones. She clutched her lantern. Light drives back darkness. With a deep breath, she raised it high. A brilliant beam erupted from the lantern, searing through the wolves like a blade. They howled, dissolving into smoke, but not before one managed to graze her arm with its claws. Pain flared, but Amy gritted her teeth and pressed on. Days passed. She climbed jagged cliffs where the wind howled like a grieving spirit. She waded through rivers that mirrored the constellations above, their waters so clear she could see the stars sleeping beneath the surface. In the Valley of Echoes, she faced a sphinx carved from obsidian, its riddle a test of her worthiness. What is born in the dark, yet dies in the light? Amy thought of the stars, how they slept in the day, only to awaken at night. "A shadow," she answered. The sphinx bowed, and the path ahead cleared. The Shadow Weaver. At last, Amy stood at the foot of the Celestial Mountains. Before her stretched the Celestial Bridge, a magnificent arch of pure light, connecting the highest peak to the heavens themselves. But its glow was fading, its structure crumbling. Great cracks splintered through its form, and with each passing second, another piece broke away, dissolving into nothingness. And there, coiled at its base like a serpent, was the Shadow Weaver. The creature was a nightmare given form, a shifting, writhing mass of darkness, its body made of smoke and void. Its eyes were pits of nothingness, and when it spoke, its voice was the sound of silence itself. "You cannot pass, Starcatcher." Amy's grip tightened on her lantern. "I have to. The bridge will fall, the stars will die, and darkness will be eternal." It lunged. Amy barely dodged, rolling aside as its claws raked the ground where she had stood. She swung her lantern, and light flared, but the Shadow Weaver only laughed, its form reassembling like mist. "Your light is weak." Desperation clawed at her. She couldn't fight it, not like this. Then she remembered the stardust. With shaking hands, she tore open the pouch and flung its contents into the air. The tiny particles exploded into life, swirling around the Shadow Weaver like a constellation given form. The creature shrieked as the starlight seared its darkness, its body writhing in agony. Now, Amy threw her moonbeam net. It unfurled like a living thing, its threads glowing brighter as they ensnared the Shadow Weaver. The creature thrashed, its screams echoing through the mountains, but the net held. With one final ear-splitting shriek, the Shadow Weaver dissolved into nothing. Silence. Then, A single star, high above, twinkled. The healing of the bridge. Amy climbed the celestial bridge, each step sending ripples of light through its fading structure. At its zenith, she found the source of its decay, a massive crystal, cracked and dim, its glow nearly extinguished. This was the heart of the bridge. She placed her lantern before it and poured the last of the stardust over its surface. Then, closing her eyes, she began to sing. It was the song her grandmother had taught her, the song of the stars, a melody of creation, of hope, of light refusing to surrender to the dark. Her voice rose, soft yet unshakable, and the crystal responded. The cracks began to mend. Light pulsed through the bridge, racing along its length like veins of gold. The stars above burned brighter, their reflections dancing upon the bridge's surface. And then, it was whole. The celestial bridge blazed with renewed brilliance, its light so intense it painted the night in hues of silver and blue. The stars, once falling, now shone steady and strong, their glow reflected in Amy's tear-filled eyes. As she descended, she noticed something new in the sky, a constellation shaped like a lantern. Amy's light, a beacon for all who dared to hope. Return home. When Amy returned to her village, she was met with cheers, tears, and embraces. Her grandmother held her tightly, whispering, "You did it, my brave starcatcher." And from that day on, Amy continued her sacred duty, her bond with the stars stronger than ever. The celestial bridge stood tall, a testament to the power of courage over despair. And though the shadow weaver was gone, Amy knew that darkness would always linger at the edges of the world, waiting, testing. But as long as there were starcatchers, the stars would never fall. And so, beneath a sky woven from dreams and starlight, the world slept peacefully, knowing that somewhere, a girl with a lantern still sang to the heavens. The end. The Secret Garden of the Firefly Queen. Once upon a time, in a quiet village surrounded by dense, enchanted woods, there lived a young boy named Leo. The village was known for its lush meadows and sparkling streams, but its true treasure was the fireflies that lit up the night sky like tiny golden stars. The villagers believed the fireflies were a gift from the Firefly Queen, a mystical being who lived deep within the woods in a secret garden. The garden was said to be a place of unimaginable beauty, where flowers glowed in the dark, and the air was filled with the scent of magic. Leo had always been fascinated by the fireflies. Every evening, he would sit by the edge of the woods, watching them dance and listening to their soft hum. His father, the village's carpenter, had told him stories of the Firefly Queen, how she was the guardian of the forest and the keeper of its secrets. But there was one secret about the garden that no one knew, a secret that had been hidden for generations. One night, as Leo sat by the woods, he noticed something unusual. The fireflies, usually so bright and lively, seemed dim and sluggish. Their light flickered faintly, and their movements were slow and erratic. Leo's heart ached as he realized something was wrong. He ran to his father, his voice trembling with worry. "Father, the fireflies are fading," he cried. His father's face grew pale as he looked at the fireflies. "The fireflies' light is connected to the magic of the secret garden," he said softly. "If their light goes out, the garden will wither, and the forest will lose its magic. Someone must find the garden and restore its light." Leo's heart raced. "I'll do it," he said firmly. "I'll find the garden, and save the fireflies. His father placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. The journey will not be easy, he warned. The garden is hidden deep within the woods, and the path is filled with trials. But if you follow the fireflies, they will guide you. Determined to save the fireflies, Leo packed a small bag with food, a lantern, and a jar to carry the fireflies. He kissed his father goodbye and set off into the woods, his eyes fixed on the faint glow of the fireflies. The path led him through dense trees and tangled underbrush, the air thick with the scent of moss and earth. As he walked, the fireflies' light grew dimmer, and the woods seemed to darken with each step. Soon he reached a clearing where the trees formed a natural archway, their branches intertwined like the fingers of giants. Beyond the archway was a narrow trail that wound deeper into the woods. As he ventured deeper, he began to hear whispers, faint and eerie, carried on the wind. The whispers grew louder, and soon he saw shadows moving among the trees, their forms shifting and writhing like smoke. "Leo," the shadows hissed, their voices cold and hollow. "Turn back. The woods are no place for you." Leo clutched the jar tightly, his breath quickening. "I won't turn back," he said firmly. "I have to save the fireflies." The shadows lunged at him, their forms swirling around him like a storm. Leo raised his lantern, and the light drove them back, but they were relentless. He ran, his feet pounding against the forest floor, the shadows close behind. Just as he thought he couldn't run any farther, he saw a faint glow ahead, a clearing bathed in golden light. He stumbled into the clearing, his heart racing, and saw the secret garden. It was a place of unimaginable beauty, with flowers that glowed in the dark, and trees whose leaves shimmered like silver. At the center of the garden was a small pond, its surface reflecting the light of the fireflies like a mirror. But what caught Leo's attention was the figure standing by the pond. A woman with long, flowing hair and eyes that glowed like embers. She was the Firefly Queen. The Queen's face was filled with sorrow as she looked at Leo. "The garden is dying," she said, her voice melodic and haunting. "The magic that sustains it is fading, and with it, the light of the fireflies." Leo's heart ached as he looked around the garden. The flowers' glow was dim, and the air was heavy with the scent of decay. He knew he had to act quickly. He reached into his bag and pulled out the jar, its glass reflecting the faint light of the fireflies. "What can I do to save the garden?" he asked. The Queen pointed to the pond. "The water in the pond is the source of the garden's magic, but it has been poisoned by a darkness that grows stronger with each passing day. You must purify the water, but be warned, the darkness will not give up its hold easily." Leo approached the pond, his heart pounding. He dipped the jar into the water, and its light began to flicker and fade. He knew he had to act quickly. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small vial of clear water he had collected from a spring in the village. His father had always told him that the spring's water was pure and full of life, and he hoped it would be enough to counteract the darkness. He poured the water into the pond, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then, the water began to churn and bubble, the darkness swirling violently. Leo stepped back, his heart in his throat, as the water began to clear, its blackness fading away. The shadows around him howled in fury, their forms weakening as the light from the jar grew stronger. But just as he thought the darkness was gone, a figure emerged from the pond. A man with eyes as dark as the night and a voice like thunder. He was the embodiment of the darkness, his form shifting and writhing like smoke. "You cannot destroy me," he said, his voice cold and menacing. I am the embodiment of the world's hidden pain and sorrow. For generations, people have buried their secrets and fears, and I have fed on them. You cannot erase what they have tried so hard to forget. Leo's mind raced. He realized the man was right. The darkness was not just in the pond, but in the hearts of people. He thought of the stories his father had told him, of the struggles and sacrifices that had shaped the world. He knew he had to confront the truth, not just for the garden, but for the world itself. "You're right," Leo said, his voice steady. "The world has its secrets and its pain, but we also have hope and love, and that is stronger than any darkness." He held up the jar, its light shining brighter than ever, and began to sing. It was a song his father had taught him, a song of hope and healing. As he sang, the light from the jar spread through the garden, chasing away the shadows and filling the air with warmth. The man's form began to waver, his cold beauty fading as the light grew stronger. He let out a final, piercing scream, and then he was gone, his darkness dissolved by the light. The garden fell silent, the pond now filled with clear, sparkling water. Leo knelt by the pond, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The jar's light was steady now, its glow warm and comforting. He knew the darkness was gone, and the garden's magic was safe. As he made his way back to the village, the woods seemed brighter, the shadows gone. The path through the meadows was bathed in golden light, the fireflies shining brighter than ever. When he reached the village, his father was waiting for him, his eyes filled with pride. "You have done well, my son," he said. "The fireflies will shine brightly because of you." And so, Leo continued to sit by the edge of the woods every night, his eyes fixed on the fireflies. The secret garden, its strength renewed, flourished once more, its beauty a reminder of the power of hope and love. Leo, the boy who had faced his fears and uncovered the truth, became a legend in his own right. His story was passed down through generations, a reminder that even in the darkest times, there is always a way to bring light back into the world. And so, the village surrounded by enchanted woods thrived, its light a beacon of hope in the night. The fireflies, once fading, now shone brighter than ever, and Leo, the boy who had saved them, continued to watch them dance, his heart filled with wonder and gratitude. The end. The river where dreams are born. Once upon a time, in a land where the sun kissed the horizon with golden light and the moon painted the night with silver, there was a hidden valley known as Lumara. This valley was no ordinary place. It was a realm of magic, where the air shimmered with whispers of ancient secrets, and the trees hummed lullabies to the stars. At the heart of Lumara flowed a river unlike any other, a river so pure, so radiant, that it was said to be the source of all dreams. This was the river of Somnia, the river where dreams were born. The river's waters were a mesmerizing blend of colors, shifting from soft lavender to deep indigo, with flecks of gold that sparkled like stardust. It was said that if you dipped your hand into its waters, you could see glimpses of your deepest desires, your wildest hopes, and your most secret fears. But the river was not easily found. It was hidden deep within the valley, protected by ancient enchantments and guarded by the dreamweavers, mystical beings who shaped dreams and guarded the river's secrets. The people of Lumara revered the river, for it was the source of their inspiration, their creativity, and their very souls. Every night, as the world slept, the dream weavers would gather by the river, weaving dreams from its waters and sending them out into the world. But the river was not just a giver of dreams, it was also a keeper of stories. Every dream that was ever dreamt flowed back into the river, becoming part of its eternal current. One day, a young girl named Mara arrived in Lumara. She was not from the valley, nor did she know of its magic. Mara was an orphan, a wanderer with no home and no family. She had spent her life traveling from place to place, searching for something she could not name. Her heart was heavy with loneliness, and her eyes were filled with a quiet longing. She had heard whispers of the river of Somnia in her travels, tales of a magical river that could grant dreams and heal broken hearts. Though she did not fully believe the stories, something deep within her urged her to find it. Mara's journey to Lumara was not easy. The valley was hidden behind towering mountains and dense forests, and the path was fraught with challenges. But Mara was determined. She climbed steep cliffs, crossed raging rivers, and braved dark forests filled with strange creatures. At last, exhausted and weary, she stumbled into the valley of Lumara. The moment she stepped into the valley, she felt a change in the air. It was as if the very earth welcomed her, whispering secrets only she could hear. The trees seemed to bow as she passed, and the flowers bloomed in vibrant colors, their petals brushing against her feet. Mara's heart, which had been so heavy for so long, began to feel lighter. She knew she was close to the river. As she walked deeper into the valley, she came upon a clearing bathed in soft, golden light. In the center of the clearing flowed the river of Somnia. Its waters glowed with an otherworldly radiance, and the air around it shimmered with magic. Mara approached the river slowly, her breath catching in her throat. She knelt by the water's edge and dipped her hand into the cool, shimmering stream. At once, visions filled her mind. She saw herself as a child, laughing and playing in a sunlit meadow. She saw a kind woman with gentle eyes, who she somehow knew was her mother. She saw a cozy cottage filled with warmth and love, a place she could call home. Tears streamed down her face as she realized these were not just dreams. They were memories, fragments of a life she had lost long ago. As Mara gazed into the river, a soft voice spoke behind her. The river shows us what we need to see, not always what we want. Startled, Mara turned to see a figure standing behind her. It was a woman, tall and graceful, with hair that shimmered like moonlight and eyes that glowed with the colors of the river. She was dressed in flowing robes that seemed to be woven from starlight, and in her hands she held a staff adorned with a glowing crystal. "Who are you?" Mara asked, her voice trembling. "I am Lyra, one of the dream weavers," the woman replied. "I guard the river and shape the dreams that flow from it. Few mortals find their way here. What brings you to the river of Somnia, child?" Mara hesitated, then spoke from her heart. "I've been searching for something my whole life. I don't know what it is, but I feel like it's here. I want to find my dreams, my purpose. I want to find myself." Lyra smiled gently. "The river can show you the way, but it cannot give you what you seek. That is something you must find within yourself. The river is a guide, a mirror of your soul. It will show you your dreams, your fears, and your truths. But it is up to you to take the next step." Mara nodded, though she did not fully understand. "Will you help me?" Lyra extended her hand. "Come, walk with me, and I will show you the magic of the river." Together, they walked along the riverbank, the waters glowing softly beside them. As they walked, Lyra explained the mysteries of the river. She told Mara how the dream weavers gathered the waters each night, shaping them into dreams and sending them out into the world. She spoke of the dreams that returned to the river, carrying the hopes and fears of those who dreamt them. And she told Mara of the river's greatest secret, the dream seed. The dream seed is the heart of the river, Lyra said. It is the source of all dreams, the essence of imagination itself. It is said that whoever finds the dream seed will have the power to shape their own destiny. But the dream seed is hidden, and only those who are pure of heart and strong of spirit can find it. Mara's eyes widened. Could I find the dream seed? Lyra looked at her thoughtfully. Perhaps, but the journey is not easy. You must face your deepest fears and confront the shadows within yourself. Only then will the dream seed reveal itself to you. Mara took a deep breath. I want to try. Lyra nodded. Very well. But remember, the river is both kind and cruel. It will show you the truth, whether you are ready to see it or not. With Lyra's guidance, Mara began her journey to find the dream seed. She followed the river deeper into the valley, through forests of silver trees and fields of glowing flowers. Along the way, she encountered many challenges. She faced her fear of abandonment, her longing for love, and her doubts about her own worth. Each time she overcame a challenge, she felt herself grow stronger, more confident. At last, she came to a place where the river widened into a vast, shimmering lake. In the center of the lake was an island, and on the island grew a tree unlike any Mara had ever seen. Its branches reached high into the sky, and its leaves glowed with a soft, golden light. At the base of the tree was a small, glowing orb, the dream seed. Mara's heart raced as she stepped onto the island. She approached the dream seed, her hand trembling as she reached out to touch it. But as her fingers brushed against it, a vision filled her mind. She saw herself as an old woman, surrounded by loved ones, her life filled with joy and purpose. She saw the dreams she had nurtured, the lives she had touched, and the legacy she had left behind. Tears filled her eyes as she realized the truth. The dream seed was not a thing to be taken. It was a gift to be earned. It was the culmination of her journey, the embodiment of her dreams and her courage. As she held the dream seed, she felt a warmth spread through her, a sense of peace and fulfillment she had never known. When she opened her eyes, she was no longer on the island. She stood by the river, the dream seed glowing softly in her hand. Lyra stood beside her, smiling. You have found what you were searching for, Lyra said. The dream seed is yours, but it is also a part of you. Carry it with you and let it guide you on your journey. Mara nodded, her heart full. She knew her journey was not over, but she also knew she was no longer alone. She had found her dreams, her purpose, and herself. And so, Mara left the valley of Lumara, carrying the dream seed with her. She traveled the world, sharing her dreams and inspiring others to find their own. And though she never returned to the river of Somnia, she carried its magic with her always. A reminder that dreams are born not in a river, but in the heart. And so, the river of Somnia continued to flow, its waters shimmering with the dreams of all who dared to believe. And somewhere, in the hidden valley of Lumara, the dream weavers watched over the river, weaving dreams and guarding the magic that made the world a brighter, more beautiful place. The end. The queen of the Silent Kingdom. In a land where no voice had been heard for 100 years, Queen Seraphine ruled over the Silent Kingdom. The air in her castle was thick with unspoken words, and the people communicated only through gestures, their expressions carrying the weight of 1,000 lost stories. Long ago, a terrible curse had fallen upon the land. A vengeful sorcerer, enraged by an ancient betrayal, had stolen the voices of every living soul. The curse could only be broken by a queen who could speak the name of the first king, a name lost to time and silence. Seraphine had been crowned as a child, never knowing the warmth of laughter or the comfort of whispered words. She ruled with wisdom, her eyes speaking where her lips could not. But in the stillness of her nights, she longed for a world where music danced through the air, where children's laughter rang through the streets, and where she might one day hear the sound of her own voice. The castle stood upon the highest peak in the kingdom, its towers wrapped in ivy, its halls lined with mirrors that reflected only the silent ghosts of those who passed by. Deep within, in the Grand Hall of Echoes, there was a mirror unlike any other, so old that the silver had begun to fade, its surface rumored to hold the memory of sound. Seraphine often stood before it, her hands pressed against the glass, her lips forming words she could not hear, hoping that somehow the mirror would whisper back. One evening, as the sun melted into the horizon, painting the sky in gold and violet, a traveler arrived at the castle gates. He was cloaked in deep blue, the color of the endless sky, and his eyes held the glint of distant stars. Unlike the others, he did not bow or gesture, but instead reached into his satchel and placed a small, worn book into Seraphine's hands. The queen traced its cover with trembling fingers. It was ancient, older than the kingdom itself, its pages yellowed with time. Inside, delicate inked symbols wove together like vines, forming words she did not understand, until she reached the final page. There, scrawled in bold, uneven letters, was a single name. Her breath caught. The name of the first king. A strange warmth bloomed in her chest, as though something long buried had begun to stir. Slowly, she lifted her head. She had never spoken a word in her life. She had never known if she could. But now, she had to try. Seraphine turned to the Hall of Echoes, standing before the great mirror. She saw her own reflection, her wide, uncertain eyes, her lips pressed together, holding back the impossible. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. And then, she spoke. The name rang through the air like the chime of a great bell, soft at first, then rising, trembling, shattering through the silence of 100 years. It was raw and cracked, unfamiliar, but it carried the weight of generations. The castle walls trembled, the ground quivered beneath her feet, and suddenly, like the first drop of rain after a long drought, the kingdom exhaled. 1,000 voices burst into the air at once, gasps of wonder, cries of joy, whispers of disbelief. The wind itself seemed to sing as the weight of silence lifted, unraveling into laughter, music, and the gentle hum of life returning. Seraphine fell to her knees as tears streamed down her face. The sound of the world wrapped around her like an embrace, and in that moment, she realized something. She had been ruling a kingdom, but she had never truly lived in it. The traveler stood at the threshold, watching as the kingdom awakened. He smiled and turned to leave, but before he could disappear into the gathering crowd, Seraphine found her voice once more. "Wait!" she called, her voice still raw but stronger now. "Who are you?" The man paused, glancing over his shoulder. "A storyteller," he said with a knowing smile. "And now, Queen Seraphine, so are you." The silent kingdom was silent no more. The Nightingale's Feather and the Silent King. Once upon a time, in a kingdom shrouded in perpetual twilight, there lived a young girl named Fedora. The kingdom, known as Umbra, was a land of muted colors and soft shadows, where the sun never fully rose and the moon never fully set. The people of Umbra lived in quiet harmony, their lives guided by the gentle glow of lanterns and the soothing songs of nightingales. But there was one thing that cast a shadow over the kingdom: the Silent King. The Silent King, whose name was whispered with reverence and sorrow, had not spoken a word in decades. Once a wise and just ruler, he had fallen into a deep melancholy after the loss of his beloved queen. His silence was not one of anger or cruelty, but of profound grief. The kingdom, though peaceful, felt the weight of his sorrow, and the people longed for the day when their king would speak again. Fedora, a kind-hearted and curious girl, lived with her father in a small cottage on the edge of the kingdom. Her father was a lantern maker, crafting intricate lanterns that lit the homes and streets of Umbra. Fedora often helped him, her fingers deftly weaving delicate patterns into the metal frames. But her true passion was the nightingales. She spent hours in the forest, listening to their songs and watching them flit among the trees. Among the nightingales, there was one that stood out, a bird with feathers of shimmering silver, its song more beautiful than any other. One evening, as Fedora sat by the forest's edge, the silver nightingale landed on her shoulder. Its song was soft and mournful, and Fedora felt a deep sadness in her heart. She reached out to gently stroke its feathers, and as she did, the bird spoke. "Fedora," it said, its voice melodic and haunting, "the Silent King's sorrow is not just his own. It is a shadow that hangs over all of Umbra. If he does not find his voice, the kingdom will fade into eternal silence." Fedora's eyes widened in surprise. "What can I do?" she asked. The nightingale plucked a single silver feather from its wing and placed it in her hand. "Take this feather to the king. It holds the power to break his silence, but only if you can find the words to awaken his heart." Fedora clutched the feather tightly, her mind racing. She had never spoken to the king before, let alone entered the grand castle that loomed over the kingdom. But she knew she had to try. She bid the nightingale farewell and set off toward the castle, the feather glowing softly in her hand. The journey to the castle was long and winding, the path lit by the faint glow of lanterns. As she walked, Fedora thought of the stories she had heard about the Silent King. He had once been a man of great wisdom and compassion, his voice a source of comfort and guidance for his people. But after the queen's death, he had retreated into himself, his silence becoming a wall that no one could breach. When she reached the castle, the guards, recognizing the feather's glow, allowed her to pass. She was led through grand halls adorned with tapestries and lanterns, their light casting flickering shadows on the walls. Finally, she was brought before the king. The Silent King sat on his throne, his face lined with sorrow, his eyes distant. Fedora approached him, her heart pounding. She held out the feather, its silver light illuminating the room. "Your Majesty," she said softly, "I bring you a gift from the nightingales. They sing for you as they have always sung, but their songs are filled with sadness. They wish for you to find your voice again, not just for yourself, but for all of Umbra." The king's eyes flickered with something. Curiosity, perhaps, or hope. He reached out and took the feather. his fingers trembling. For a moment, there was silence. Then, the feather began to glow brighter, its light spreading through the room. Fedora took a deep breath and began to speak. She told the king of the people of Umbra, of their quiet strength and their unwavering loyalty. She spoke of the beauty of the kingdom, of the lanterns that lit the streets and the nightingales that sang in the forest. And she spoke of his queen, of the love they had shared and the legacy she had left behind. "Your sorrow is great," she said, her voice steady and gentle. "But it is not the end of your story. The kingdom needs you not just as a ruler, but as a voice of hope. The nightingales sing for you, and the people wait for you. Please, Your Majesty, find your voice again." As she spoke, the feather's light grew brighter, filling the room with a warm, silver glow. The king's eyes filled with tears, and he opened his mouth as if to speak, but no sound came out. Fedora's heart sank, but she did not give up. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, intricately crafted lantern. It was one she had made herself, its frame adorned with the image of a nightingale. She lit the lantern and placed it at the king's feet. "This lantern is a symbol of the light you brought to Umbra," she said. "It is a reminder that even in the darkest times, there is always hope. Please, Your Majesty, let your light shine again." For a long moment, there was silence. Then, slowly, the king rose from his throne. He looked at Fedora, his eyes filled with gratitude and resolve. And then, in a voice that was soft but steady, he spoke. "Thank you," he said. The sound of his voice was like a ripple in a still pond, spreading through the room and beyond. The lanterns in the castle flickered and brightened, their light chasing away the shadows. Outside, the nightingales began to sing, their songs filled with joy and hope. Fedora smiled, her heart swelling with relief and pride. She had done it. She had helped the silent king find his voice again. In the days that followed, the kingdom of Umbra began to change. The king, his voice growing stronger with each passing day, began to rule with the wisdom and compassion he had once shown. The people, inspired by his return, worked together to bring new life to the kingdom. Lanterns were hung in every corner, their light brighter than ever, and the nightingales' songs filled the air with hope and joy. Fedora returned to her cottage, her heart full. She continued to help her father with his lantern making, but she also spent more time in the forest, listening to the nightingales and watching them dance among the trees. The silver nightingale, its feather now a part of the king's crown, would often visit her, its song a reminder of the power of hope and the strength of the human spirit. And so, the kingdom of Umbra flourished, its light a beacon of hope in the twilight. The silent king, once lost in sorrow, became a voice of guidance and inspiration. And Fedora, the girl who had helped him find his voice, became a legend in her own right. Her story was passed down through generations, a reminder that even in the darkest times, there is always a way to bring light back into the world. The end. The moon who forgot to dream. On a night when even the stars held their breath, the moon forgot how to dream. No one noticed at first. The tides still rose and fell. Silver light still brushed the tips of sleeping mountains, and owls still stitched their silent paths through the dark. But high above, in the deep sea of sky, the moon hung awake, bright-eyed and weary, unable to close her thoughts. She had dreamed since the first dawn, dreams of foxes dancing on frost, of ships finding home by her glow, of lovers promising forever beneath her gaze. Her dreams were the ink that wrote night across the heavens. Yet something had gone missing, some small spark of wonder she could no longer find. Down below, the world noticed in its own quiet way. The waves moved without rhythm, like hearts that had forgotten their beat. Flowers that normally opened to moonlight stayed shyly closed. Even the storytellers, those who spun words beside midnight fires, found their tales fading before the last page. The night was still beautiful, but hollow, as if it were trying to remember a melody it once knew by heart. In a valley where shadows gathered like gentle cats, there lived a young dreamkeeper named Ilya. She was not a sorcerer or a queen, merely a girl who collected forgotten dreams in glass jars. She found them where people dropped them, on park benches, beside cold teacups, under pillows left unmade. By day she stored them on wooden shelves that creaked with wonder. By night she listened to them hum like sleeping bees. But lately the jars had gone silent, their colors dulled, their whispers faint. When she looked up at the sky for answers, she saw the moon, wide-eyed, sleepless, and still.
"I think,"
said Ilya softly,
"the moon has lost her own dream, and if she cannot dream, none of us will."
a key, and a feather she'd once found on her windowsill, the kind of feather that shimmered differently each time you blinked. She didn't know what it belonged to, only that it wanted to go somewhere. Then, with her heart beating faster than her feet, she began to climb the mountain that brushed the sky. The path was older than memory. Ferns glowed with dew like bottled stars, and the wind spoke in riddles. Climb light, dream heavy. She passed sleeping deer, stones that hummed like quiet bells, and pools that showed not reflections, but memories. By the third night, clouds wrapped around the peaks like folded blankets. Ilya lit her lantern, and its flame flickered in rhythm with her pulse. At last, she reached the edge of the heavens, the place where starlight thickened into air. There she met a fox carved from smoke. "You can't pass," said the fox. "No one crosses from waking to sky without a gift for the dreamless." Ilya opened her bag.
"I have only this feather."
She said. The fox sniffed it and smiled. "Ah, a feather from the dream bird. She nests near the moon's heart. Give it back to her, and perhaps the moon will sleep again." Then, like mist greeting dawn, the fox vanished. Ilya stepped onto a bridge of frozen light. Beneath her, nothing, just the long hush between worlds. The lantern swayed in her hand, scattering gold across the stars. She followed its light until the bridge ended at a door, huge and silver, with no handle, only a keyhole that pulsed like a heartbeat. She took out her brass key. It fit perfectly. The door opened inward, and she stepped into the moon. Inside was not stone or dust, but a forest made of light. Trees shimmered like harp strings, leaves drifted down as notes of music. Rivers ran upward. The air smelled of every lullaby ever sung. But the center of it all was dim, a hollow where once there had been brightness. There sat the moon herself, shaped like a woman cloaked in soft silver, eyes blank with wakefulness. "I cannot dream," the moon murmured. "Every time I close my eyes, I see the end of things, the last tide, the final story, the silence after song. So I stay awake, and the world grows thin." Ilya knelt beside her.
"Dreams are not endings,"
she said.
"They are rehearsals for hope."
The moon smiled sadly. "And what would you give to prove that?" Little keeper? Ilya placed the feather in the moon's open hand.
It's not mine.
She said.
It belongs to dreaming itself.
The feather dissolved into light that wound through the moon's fingers, up her arm, across her face. Then, slowly, her eyes closed. The forest brightened. The rivers sang in reverse, carrying light back toward the sky. Ilya felt herself lifted, weightless, as if the dream were expanding to make room for her. The moon whispered, half asleep, Tell them I remember." And with that, she dreamed. When Ilya awoke, she was lying on the mountain's summit, her lantern beside her, still glowing faintly. The sky above pulsed with renewed silver. The moon floated whole again, serene and soft, her light carrying stories across oceans and windows alike. Down in the valley, people stirred from heavy sleep. Painters dreamed in color again. Poets found words waiting at dawn. Children woke whispering tales they couldn't remember but wished they could. Even the fox of smoke chased his own tail in delight. Ilya returned to her cottage. On her shelves, every jar of captured dreams flickered awake, whispering their songs of longing and laughter. Yet one jar at the very top remained empty. She left it so, because some dreams, she thought, are meant to roam free. That night she sat by her window, lantern dimmed, watching the moon drift through her new dreams. Each beam that touched her cheek felt like a thank you. As the seasons turned, the world bloomed in quiet wonder. Sailors spoke of tides that seemed to hum lullabies. Owls flew with their wings full of silver dust. And sometimes, when sleep refused to come, people could almost hear the faint heartbeat of the moon, steady and calm, echoing through the clouds. Ilya grew older, though her eyes never lost their dreamlight. She became a legend whispered in bedtime stories, the girl who climbed the sky and taught the moon to dream again. No one ever saw her jars after that, only the glow that lingered where her cottage once stood. But on rare nights, when mist lies thick and the stars dim with memory, travelers claim they glimpse a small figure walking the hills, lantern in hand, checking that the moon still sleeps peacefully. And somewhere, deep in the forest of light inside the sky, the dream bird sings to her brood, a lullaby shaped like a heartbeat, steady and endless. The Lost City of Hollow Bells. Long ago, hidden deep within the misty peaks of the Evervale Mountains, there was a city unlike any other. Its name was Hollow Bells, a place where no one spoke, and the only sound was the soft, haunting chime of bells. The city was said to have been built by the wind itself, its towers of bronze and silver crowned with bells that swayed gently with every breeze. It was a place of silence, where dreams were carried on the air and promises whispered into the wind. For centuries, the people of Hollow Bells lived in quiet harmony, bound by an ancient spell that had stolen their voices. They could not speak, not with their mouths, nor with their hands. And so, they learned to listen. They listened to the rustle of leaves, the distant roll of thunder, and most of all, to the bells. Each chime carried a message, a secret language passed from heart to heart. But the spell was not eternal. A prophecy had been carved into the oldest bell, hidden deep within the bellkeeper's tower. When the voice of the forgotten rises, and a heart speaks where none dare to sing, the spell shall break, and silence will fall. For generations, the prophecy was ignored. No one believed it could come true, until the night a wanderer named Elira arrived. Elira was unlike anyone who had ever come to Hollow Bells. Her hair was the color of dusk, tangled and wild, and her eyes shimmered like moonlit water. She carried a voice within her, though she had not spoken a word in years. Her mother had warned her that voices could be dangerous, that they could break hearts as easily as they could heal them. So Elira had locked her voice away, burying it deep within her chest like a hidden flame. When she arrived in Hollow Bells, the silence felt heavier than anything she had ever known. The streets were empty, the air filled only with the soft, hollow ringing of the bells. Drawn by curiosity, Elira wandered the city, her footsteps echoing against the cobblestones. She trailed her fingers along the cool stone walls, feeling the weight of the silence pressing down on her. As night fell, Elira found herself standing before the bellkeeper's tower. It was the tallest structure in the city, its spire piercing the sky. She climbed the worn spiral steps, higher and higher, until she stood beneath the oldest bell. Its surface was cracked and weathered, streaked with age and forgotten prayers. The prophecy was carved there, half-faded beneath layers of dust. Elira traced the words with her fingertips, feeling the weight of their promise. A heart speaks where none dare to sing. Something stirred deep inside her, a flicker of warmth, like a flame long buried. She closed her eyes, pressing her hand to her chest, where her voice had been locked away for so long. The bells whispered in the wind, urging her on. And then, soft as a sigh, Elira began to hum. It was a small sound at first, barely louder than the rustling leaves. But the melody rose, winding through the tower like a silver thread, filling the hollow spaces with warmth. The bells trembled, as if waking from a long sleep. Her voice grew stronger, carrying fragments of forgotten lullabies, songs she had learned in the quiet corners of her childhood. The air around her shimmered, and the wind itself seemed to hold its breath. One by one, the bells began to chime, not in their usual soft whispers, but in bright, clear tones that echoed through the city. Towers that had stood in silence for centuries began to ring out, filling Hollow Bells with music. The people woke from their homes, drawn by the sound. They stood in the streets with wide, tear-filled eyes as the city bloomed with melody. And slowly, as if remembering how, they began to speak. Soft murmurs at first, names spoken for the first time in generations, then laughter, and finally songs. By dawn, the spell was broken. Hollow Bells was no longer a city of silence, but a city of voices, each one carrying its own music, its own story. Elira stood at the top of the bellkeeper's tower, her heart light as the wind. Her voice had opened the gates of the forgotten city, but more than that, it had set something free within her own heart. She had thought her voice was something to be feared, something fragile and dangerous, but in the end, it had been the key all along. From that day on, the bells of Hollow Bells rang not only with the wind, but with songs carried by every heart that had once been silent. And Elira's voice, soft and wild as the breeze, echoed through the city for generations to come. A promise that even in the deepest silence, there is always music waiting to rise. The end. The Kingdom of Eternal Spring. Once upon a time, in a land far beyond the tallest mountains and the deepest seas, there existed a kingdom where the seasons never changed. This was the Kingdom of Eternal Spring. a place where the sun always shone with a gentle warmth. The flowers bloomed in every color imaginable, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of jasmine and honeysuckle. The rivers ran crystal clear, and the forests were alive with the songs of birds and the rustling of leaves in the soft breeze. It was a paradise, a place where time seemed to stand still, and the people lived in harmony with nature. The kingdom was ruled by a wise and kind queen named Seraphina. She was beloved by her people, not only for her beauty, but for her compassion and wisdom. Queen Seraphina had a daughter, Princess Amara, who was as radiant as the morning sun. Amara had long golden hair that shimmered like spun gold, and her eyes were the color of the sky on a clear spring day. She was known throughout the kingdom for her kindness and her love for all living things. The people of the kingdom believed that it was Amara's pure heart that kept the land in eternal spring. But not all was perfect in the kingdom of eternal spring. Deep within the heart of the enchanted forest, there was a dark and shadowy place where the sun's rays never reached. This was the domain of the sorcerer Malvora, a powerful and malevolent being who had long envied the beauty and joy of the kingdom. Malvora was a master of dark magic, and he had spent centuries plotting to steal the kingdom's eternal spring for himself. He believed that if he could capture the source of the kingdom's magic, he could bend it to his will and rule over all the lands. The source of the kingdom's magic was a mystical tree known as the Heart of Spring. It was said that the tree's roots reached deep into the earth, drawing nourishment from the very essence of life. Its branches stretched high into the sky, and its leaves shimmered with a soft, golden light. The Heart of Spring was hidden deep within the enchanted forest, protected by ancient spells and guarded by the spirits of the forest. Only the pure of heart could find it, and only the true ruler of the kingdom could draw upon its power. One day, as Princess Amara wandered through the forest, she came across a wounded bird. Its wing was broken, and it lay helpless on the forest floor. Amara knelt beside the bird and gently cradled it in her hands. She whispered words of comfort and healing, and as she did, a soft golden light emanated from her fingertips. The bird's wing mended, and it fluttered into the air, chirping a joyful song of gratitude before flying away. Unbeknownst to Amara, the sorcerer Malvora had been watching her from the shadows. He had seen the power of her pure heart, and he knew that she was the key to unlocking the Heart of Spring. Malvora's eyes gleamed with malice as he devised a plan to capture the princess and use her to gain control of the kingdom's magic. That night, as the kingdom slept, Malvora cast a spell of darkness over the land. Thick, black clouds rolled across the sky, blotting out the stars and the moon. The air grew cold, and a chilling wind swept through the forest. The people of the kingdom awoke to find their paradise shrouded in darkness. The flowers wilted, the rivers turned icy, and the birds fell silent. Fear gripped the hearts of the people as they realized that their eternal spring was fading. Queen Seraphina knew that only the Heart of Spring could restore the kingdom's magic, but she also knew that the path to the tree was fraught with danger. She called for her bravest knights and wisest advisors, but none dared to venture into the enchanted forest, for they feared the sorcerer Malvora and his dark magic. Princess Amara, however, was determined to save her kingdom. She knew that the Heart of Spring was the key to restoring the land, and she believed that her pure heart would guide her to the tree. Despite her mother's protests, Amara set out on a journey into the enchanted forest, armed only with her courage and her love for her people. As Amara ventured deeper into the forest, she encountered many challenges. The trees seemed to close in around her, their branches twisting and turning to block her path. The air grew colder, and the shadows grew darker. But Amara pressed on, her heart filled with determination. She sang a soft, soothing song as she walked, and the forest seemed to respond to her voice. The trees parted, and the shadows retreated, allowing her to pass. After many days of travel, Amara finally reached the heart of the enchanted forest. There, standing tall and majestic, was the heart of spring. Its golden leaves shimmered in the dim light, and its roots pulsed with a gentle, rhythmic glow. Amara approached the tree and placed her hand on its trunk. She closed her eyes and whispered a prayer, asking for the strength to save her kingdom. But before she could draw upon the tree's power, a dark figure emerged from the shadows. It was the sorcerer Malvora, his eyes gleaming with malice. He laughed a cold, cruel laugh and raised his hand, casting a spell that bound Amara in chains of darkness. "Foolish girl," Malvora sneered. "Did you really think you could defeat me? Your pure heart may have guided you here, but it will not save you now. I will use your power to control the heart of spring, and then I will rule over all the lands." Amara struggled against the chains, but they were too strong. She felt the darkness closing in around her, threatening to extinguish the light within her heart. But then, she remembered the words her mother had often spoken to her. The true strength of a ruler lies not in power, but in love and compassion. With those words in her heart, Amara closed her eyes and focused on the love she had for her people, for her mother, and for all living things. She felt a warmth spreading through her body, and the chains of darkness began to weaken. The golden light of the heart of spring grew brighter, and the tree's roots pulsed with a powerful energy. Amara opened her eyes and looked directly at Malvora. "You may have dark magic," she said, her voice steady and strong, "but you will never have my heart. Love is stronger than fear, and light will always overcome darkness." With those words, the chains of darkness shattered, and a brilliant light burst forth from the heart of spring. The light enveloped Amara, filling her with a powerful energy. She raised her hand, and a beam of golden light shot forth, striking Malvora and banishing him from the forest. The darkness that had shrouded the kingdom began to lift. The clouds parted, and the sun's rays once again warmed the land. The flowers bloomed, the rivers flowed, and the birds sang their joyful songs. The kingdom of eternal spring was restored, and the people rejoiced. Queen Seraphina welcomed her daughter back with open arms, and the kingdom celebrated Amara's bravery and pure heart. From that day forward, the people knew that their eternal spring was not just a gift of nature, but a reflection of the love and compassion that resided in the hearts of their rulers. And so, the kingdom of eternal spring continued to thrive, a paradise where the sun always shone, the flowers always bloomed, and the people lived in harmony with nature. And Princess Amara, with her pure heart and unwavering courage, became a legend, a symbol of the power of love and light to overcome even the darkest of shadows. The end. The key to the Dreammaker's door. In a village where twilight stretched endlessly, nestled between misty hills and winding rivers, there was a legend whispered from one generation to the next. The story of the Dream Maker. They said the Dream Maker was a mysterious figure who could spin dreams into life, crafting entire worlds from whispers of imagination. Somewhere deep within the forest, hidden from those who no longer believed, the dream maker had built a secret door, one that opened only to the heart of a true dreamer. But the key to that door had been lost long ago, scattered among forgotten wishes. Lyra had grown up on these stories, sitting cross-legged by her grandmother's fire, eyes wide with wonder. While other children played along the riverbanks or chased fireflies at dusk, Lyra traced maps in the dirt, searching for places where the door might be hidden. The other children laughed, calling her a daydreamer. But Lyra didn't mind. One chilly autumn evening, as the first frost glittered along the rooftops, Lyra's grandmother beckoned her close. From beneath her patchwork shawl, she produced a small velvet pouch and pressed it into Lyra's hands. "Every dream needs a key," her grandmother whispered. Inside the pouch was a silver key, its handle carved with swirling patterns that shimmered when turned beneath the moonlight. It was heavier than Lyra expected, cold against her palm. "They say the door only appears to those who truly believe," her grandmother said. "Perhaps it's time for you to find out." That night, while the village slept beneath the blanket of stars, Lyra set out into the forest. The moon hung low, casting pale beams through the trees. The silver key seemed to pulse softly in her hand, guiding her feet along hidden paths. The further she walked, the quieter the forest became, as if the very world was holding its breath. Hours passed, or perhaps only moments, before she stumbled into a small clearing. The ivy-covered trees circled tightly, and there, half buried beneath fallen leaves, stood the door. It was old and weathered, its wooden surface carved with ancient symbols. Lyra's heart pounded as she approached. She reached out, fitting the silver key into the lock. It clicked softly, and the door creaked open. Beyond the threshold stretched a world unlike anything she had ever dreamed. Skies painted in shifting colors, rivers of liquid light, and floating islands where dreams flickered like fireflies. Whispers filled the air, soft voices carrying the fragments of forgotten wishes. At the heart of it all stood a cloaked figure, their face hidden beneath a hood stitched with stardust. Their eyes shimmered like galaxies. "You have found the door," the dream maker said, their voice echoing like distant bells. "Few ever do." Lyra stood frozen, breathless. "What is this place?" she asked. "This is where dreams are born," the dream maker answered. "Every wish, every forgotten hope, they begin here, waiting to be shaped." With a wave of their hand, the dream maker spun silver threads from the air, weaving them into shapes. Castles made of moonlight, forests where stars bloomed on every branch, oceans that shimmered with memories long lost. "Would you like to shape a dream, little one?" Lyra nodded. Slowly, the dream maker guided her hands, showing her how to gather the shimmering threads, how to stitch laughter, hope, and wonder into something new. She wove a meadow filled with endless wildflowers, a river where music flowed instead of water, and a sky where every star carried a secret wish. Time passed strangely in the dream maker's realm. It could have been hours or mere moments before the first hint of dawn began to glow at the horizon. The dream maker's voice grew softer. "The door does not stay open for long," they said, "but you will carry this place with you." They pressed a tiny glass vial into Lyra's palm. Inside, a single silver thread shimmered, the dream she had woven herself. "When the world forgets to dream," the dream maker whispered, "let this light remind you." Lyra stepped back through the door just as the first birds began to sing. When she turned, the door was gone, leaving only a circle of soft moss behind. No one believed her story, except her grandmother, who smiled knowingly. The other children still called her a daydreamer, but Lyra didn't mind. Each night, as the village slept, she would hold the little vial to the moonlight and watch the dream flicker inside. And slowly, quietly, the village began to feel different, brighter, softer, as if dreams were stirring beneath the surface once more. And though no one ever found the dream maker's door again, they said that children began to wake with brighter eyes, speaking of meadows that stretched beyond the horizon and skies painted in colors no one had ever seen.
The Forest of Forgotten Wishes.
Once upon a time, in a land where the sun always seemed to set in hues of gold and lavender, there was a mysterious place known as the Forest of Forgotten Wishes. It was said that deep within its emerald depths, the trees held the secrets of every wish ever made, and then abandoned. The forest was a place of both wonder and warning, for while it granted solace to those who sought it, it also demanded something in return, a memory, a dream, or a piece of one's heart. No one knew how the forest came to be, but legends spoke of an ancient sorceress who, heartbroken and weary, had poured her magic into the earth, creating a sanctuary for lost hopes. The trees grew tall and twisted, their bark etched with faint, glowing symbols that pulsed like whispers. Travelers who ventured into the forest often returned changed, their eyes distant and their hearts lighter or heavier than before. One day, a young girl named Lila stumbled upon the forest. She had not meant to find it. In fact, she had been running away. Lila lived in a village at the edge of the woods, where life was simple but hard. Her parents were kind but poor, and Lila often dreamed of a life beyond the village, where she could be free to explore the world. But dreams were dangerous in her village, for they often led to disappointment. When Lila's parents discovered her sketching maps of faraway lands, they scolded her. "Dreams won't fill your belly," her father said. "Focus on what's real." Heartbroken and angry, Lila fled into the woods, tears blurring her vision. She ran until her legs ached, and her breath came in ragged gasps. When she finally stopped, she found herself standing at the edge of the Forest of Forgotten Wishes. The air was thick with the scent of pine and something else, something sweet and sorrowful, like the memory of a long-lost song. Curiosity tugged at her, and despite the warnings she had heard about the forest, Lila stepped inside. The moment she crossed the threshold, the world seemed to shift. The sunlight filtered through the leaves in dappled patterns, casting everything in a soft, golden glow. The trees whispered to one another, their voices like the rustle of pages in an old book. "Who are you?" a voice asked, soft and melodic. Lila turned and saw a figure standing before her, a woman with hair like spun silver and eyes that glimmered like starlight. She wore a gown made of moss and leaves, and her presence was both comforting and unsettling. "I'm Lila," the girl replied, her voice trembling. "I didn't mean to come here. I was just running away." The woman smiled gently. "Many who come here are running from something, but the forest does not judge. It listens. Tell me, Lila, what is it that you wish for?" Lila hesitated. She had never spoken her deepest wish aloud, not even to herself. But something about the woman's gaze made her feel safe. I wish I could see the world," she said. "I wish I could be free to explore and discover, without fear or regret." The woman nodded, as if she had expected this answer. "A noble wish," she said. "But wishes come with a price. The forest will grant your desire, But in return, it will take something from you. A memory, a dream, or a piece of your heart. Are you willing to pay the price? Lila thought for a moment. She thought of her parents, of the village, of the life she had always known. She thought of the maps she had drawn, the stories she had read, and the longing that had always burned within her. "Yes," she said finally, "I am." The woman reached out and touched Lila's forehead. A warm, tingling sensation spread through her, and for a moment, the world seemed to blur. When the sensation faded, the woman was gone, and Lila was alone in the forest. But something was different. The trees seemed to part before her, revealing a path she had not noticed before. Lila followed it, her heart pounding with anticipation. The path led her out of the forest and into a world she had only dreamed of. A world of towering mountains, sparkling rivers, and cities that seemed to touch the sky. For years, Lila explored the world, her heart full of wonder and joy. She climbed mountains, crossed deserts, and sailed across oceans. She met people from all walks of life and learned their stories. But as time passed, she began to notice something strange. She could no longer remember her parents' faces. The village she had grown up in was a distant blur, and the maps she had once drawn were gone from her mind. The forest had taken her memories in exchange for her wish. One day, Lila returned to the forest of forgotten wishes. She stood at its edge, her heart heavy with both gratitude and sorrow. "Thank you," she whispered to the trees. "You gave me the world, but you also took a part of me. Was it worth it?" The wind rustled through the leaves, carrying with it a single whispered word, "Always." And with that, Lila stepped into the forest once more, ready to begin a new chapter of her journey. For she had learned that wishes, like dreams, are never truly forgotten. They simply change shape, becoming a part of who we are. And so, the forest of forgotten wishes remained, a place of magic and mystery, where lost hopes found new life, and where the brave and the curious could discover the true cost of their dreams. The end. The Firefly's Promise and the Midnight Spell. Citra. A Once Upon a Midnight Fairy Tale. In a secluded valley, surrounded by ancient trees that whispered forgotten songs, there lay a village untouched by time. The people there lived quietly, their lives entwined with the rhythm of nature, and most of all, with the glowing fireflies that graced their skies every night. But these fireflies were no mere insects. They carried with them an ancient, sacred magic, one that had shielded the village from a deep and hungry darkness for as long as anyone could remember. Among all the glittering lights that flitted across the night sky, there was one that gleamed brighter, warmer, and purer than the rest. Her name was Luma, a golden firefly said to be born from the first light of dawn and the final star of dusk. She was more than magical. She was legendary. And to a curious girl named Rilana, Luma was a friend, a guide, and a secret promise whispered into the hush of twilight. Rilana had lived her whole life listening to stories from her grandmother, the village's elder and keeper of tales. With a voice like wind brushing through leaves, her grandmother told her of the midnight spell, a curse cast by a scorned sorceress who once dwelled in the forest beyond. It was a spell of endless night, fueled by envy of the firefly's beauty and light. One day, her grandmother warned gently, brushing silver hair from Rilana's brow, The spell will stir again, and when it does, Luma will need your courage, child. For her promise, though old, is not yet fulfilled." Rilana never questioned it. She only listened, as the fireflies danced above them like stars that had forgotten the sky. Every evening, she would wait near the forest's edge, where roots tangled and time felt thinner. And always, Luma would find her, landing softly on her open hand, her light a tiny sun glowing in the dusk. But peace, as ever in stories like this, was not meant to last. One cool summer night, with a purple sky thick with velvet clouds, Rilana sat at her usual spot. The air buzzed, and the fireflies appeared, their soft golden glow weaving through the air like drifting embers. But Luma's glow was dim. She fluttered unsteadily, her wings trembling. Alarmed, Rilana cupped her hands, and Luma sank into her palms like a dying flame. "What's happening?" she whispered, her voice barely a breath. The firefly's light pulsed faintly, then flickered again. Terror gripped her chest. Without hesitation, she ran through the forest paths to her grandmother's cottage, branches snagging her sleeves, moss soft beneath her bare feet. "Grandmother!" she cried, bursting through the door. The old woman turned from the hearth and gasped. Her gaze fell upon the fading firefly. "It has begun," she murmured. "The midnight spell is awakening." Her words hit like thunder. If Luma's light fails, the magic will falter. The darkness will spill from the forest, and our village will vanish beneath a sky that never dawns. Rilana stared at her. Then what must I do? With trembling hands, her grandmother retrieved an old map and spread it across the table. "You must journey to the heart tree, deep within the forest. It is where the first fireflies were born, where their magic springs eternal. Only there can Luma's light be restored. But beware, the sorceress's shadow still lingers." A cold dread ran down Rilana's spine. But she nodded, already packing food, a lantern, and a glass jar lined with moss for Luma to rest in. Her grandmother pressed a kiss to her forehead. "Remember, child, the light always finds a way, even in the darkest woods." With those words echoing behind her, Rilana disappeared into the trees. The deeper she walked, the thicker the air became. Shadows slithered between branches. The forest, once familiar, now felt like something ancient watching her from every root and leaf. Even the wind seemed to whisper. "Rilana, Rilana, turn back." Shapes danced in the corner of her eyes. Whispers twisted around her ears. "You do not belong here." But she gripped the lantern tighter, heart pounding. "I'm not afraid," she said aloud, though she was. Suddenly, the shadows surged forward, cold and smoke-like. They formed faces, mouths twisted in silent screams. She raised her lantern, its flame casting trembling light through the dark. The shadows hissed and recoiled, but did not vanish. They slithered behind her, above her, beside her. She ran. Branches clawed her arms, roots caught at her boots. The jar holding Luma rattled in her grip. Just as her legs gave out, the forest opened into a clearing bathed in light. She collapsed onto soft grass, gasping. And before her stood the heart tree, taller than any she had ever seen. Its bark gold-flecked, its branches shimmering with tiny lights. It looked as if it held the stars within its leaves. At its roots bubbled a silver pool, still and glowing like liquid moonlight. Rilana placed Luma's jar beside it and opened the lid. The firefly crawled onto her hand, her light now no more than a ghostly flicker. Rilana knelt, tears brimming. "Please," she whispered to the pool, "help her." She dipped her fingers into the water, and let the starlight drip gently onto Luma's back. A faint hum vibrated through the clearing. Slowly, the golden glow returned. Brighter, stronger. But then, the wind howled. The shadows returned, swirling into a single shape. A woman made of darkness, tall and terrible. Her face was veiled in shadow, her eyes like dying stars. "The curse is mine," the sorceress hissed. "It was never yours to break." Rilana stood, her body trembling. "This forest doesn't belong to you. It belongs to silence, to sorrow, to me." The sorceress lunged, but Luma flared in Rilana's hands, her light burning like a second sun. The shadow recoiled, shrieking. Rilana closed her eyes and began to sing, not out of fear, but of hope. The song her grandmother once sang, soft as dusk and old as firelight. The pool glowed. The tree pulsed with golden life. The fireflies emerged, countless and blazing. They gathered around Rilana and Luma like a swirling galaxy of light. The sorceress screamed. Her shadow tore and unraveled, her form breaking into mist. As Rilana's song rose, the light overwhelmed the clearing, and the shadow was no more. Silence returned, soft and sacred. Luma rose from Rilana's hands, her golden light now steady and strong. She danced above the pool, leaving trails of magic in the air. Rilana smiled, exhausted, but at peace. "Thank you," came a whisper, not from outside, but within her mind. Luma's voice, like wind chimes in a summer breeze. The firefly's promise is fulfilled. Rilana lay back in the grass, watching the sky above the heart tree. For the first time, she saw no stars, only fireflies, lighting the night with a promise kept. When she returned to the village, the people gathered in awe. The sky above their homes sparkled brighter than ever. The fireflies were everywhere, dancing joyously, their glow stronger than memory. Her grandmother embraced her tightly. "You've done what none of us could. You listened. You believed." From that day on, Rilana became the new storyteller. She sat each evening by the forest's edge, with children gathered at her feet, telling the tale of the golden firefly and the girl who walked through shadows for the light. And Luma, faithful, golden Luma, always returned to her hand, her glow never fading. The heart tree still stood, deep in the forest, watching over all who dreamt by starlight. And as long as fireflies danced in the night, the village would remain safe. For the firefly's promise had been passed on, and in Rilana's heart, it would burn forever. The end. The Secret of the Silver-Winged Swan. Once upon a time, in a tranquil village nestled beside a shimmering lake, there lived a young girl named Amara. The village was known for its breathtaking beauty, with rolling green hills, fields of wild flowers, and a lake so clear it reflected the sky like a mirror. But the true wonder of the village was the silver-winged swan, a majestic creature said to possess magical powers. The swan was rarely seen, appearing only under the light of the full moon, and its presence was believed to bring good fortune to the village. Amara had always been fascinated by the swan. Every full moon, she would sit by the lake, her eyes scanning the water for a glimpse of its silver wings. Her grandmother, the village's storyteller, had told her tales of the swan's magic, how it could heal the sick, mend broken hearts, and even grant wishes. But there was one secret about the swan that no one knew, a secret that had been hidden for generations. One evening, as the full moon rose high in the sky, Amara sat by the lake, her heart filled with anticipation. The air was still, and the water sparkled like liquid silver. Suddenly, a soft ripple broke the surface of the lake, and the swan emerged, its feathers glistening in the moonlight. Amara's breath caught in her throat as she watched the swan glide gracefully across the water. But something was different this time. The swan's movements were slow and labored, and its silver wings seemed to flicker faintly, as if its light was fading. Amara's heart ached as she realized the swan was in pain. She stood up and approached the water's edge, her voice soft and gentle. "What's wrong?" she whispered. To her surprise, the swan turned its head and looked directly at her. Its eyes, deep and luminous, seemed to hold a world of sorrow. Then, in a voice that was both melodic and haunting, the swan spoke. "Amara," it said, "my magic is fading. The lake, once pure and full of life, is being poisoned by a darkness that grows stronger with each passing day. If it is not stopped, I will lose my power, and the village will lose its protector." Amara's heart raced. What can I do to help? The swan dipped its beak into the water and pulled out a single silver feather. "Take this feather and follow the stream that flows from the lake. It will lead you to the source of the darkness. But be warned, the journey will not be easy. You must face your deepest fears and uncover the truth that has been hidden for generations." Amara took the feather, its light warm and comforting in her hands. She knew she had to help the swan, not just for the village, but for the magic that had always filled her heart with wonder. She bid the swan farewell and set off along the stream, the feather glowing softly to guide her way. The stream led her deep into the forest, where the trees grew tall and the air was thick with the scent of moss and earth. As she walked, she began to hear whispers, faint and eerie, carried on the wind. The whispers grew louder, and soon she saw shadows moving among the trees, their forms shifting and writhing like smoke. "Amara," the shadows hissed, their voices cold and hollow. "Turn back. The forest is no place for you." Amara clutched the feather tightly, her breath quickening. "I won't turn back," she said firmly. "I have to save the swan and the village." The shadows lunged at her, their forms swirling around her like a storm. Amara raised the feather, and its light drove them back. But they were relentless. She ran, her feet pounding against the forest floor, the shadows close behind. Just as she thought she couldn't run any farther, she saw a faint glow ahead, a clearing bathed in silver light. She stumbled into the clearing, her heart racing, and saw a small, ancient well at its center. The well was made of stone, its surface covered in moss and vines. But what caught Amara's attention was the dark, swirling water within it. The water was unlike anything she had ever seen. Black and oily, with a faint, sickly glow. She knew this was the source of the darkness. Amara approached the well, her heart pounding. She dipped the feather into the water, and its light began to flicker and fade. She knew she had to act quickly. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small vial of clear water she had collected from the lake. Her grandmother had always told her that the lake's water was pure and full of life, and she hoped it would be enough to counteract the darkness. She poured the water into the well, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then, the water began to churn and bubble, the darkness swirling violently. Amara stepped back, her heart in her throat, as the water began to clear, its blackness fading away. The shadows around her howled in fury, their forms weakening as the light from the feather grew stronger. But just as she thought the darkness was gone, a figure emerged from the well. A woman with long, flowing hair and eyes as dark as the night. She was beautiful, but her beauty was cold and menacing, and Amara felt a chill run down her spine. "You cannot destroy me," the woman said, her voice like ice. "I am the embodiment of the village's hidden pain and sorrow. For generations, they have buried their secrets and fears, and I have fed on them. You cannot erase what they have tried so hard to forget." Amara's mind raced. She realized the woman was right. The darkness was not just in the well, but in the hearts of the villagers. She thought of the stories her grandmother had told her, of the struggles and sacrifices that had shaped the village. She knew she had to confront the truth, not just for the swan, but for the village itself. "You're right," Amara said, her voice steady. "The village has its secrets and its pain. But we also have hope and love, and that is stronger than any darkness." She held up the feather, its light shining brighter than ever, and began to sing. It was a song her grandmother had taught her, a song of hope and healing. As she sang, the light from the feather spread through the clearing, chasing away the shadows and filling the air with warmth. The woman's form began to waver, her cold beauty fading as the light grew stronger. She let out a final, piercing scream, and then she was gone, her darkness dissolved by the light. The clearing fell silent, the well now filled with clear, sparkling water. Amara knelt by the well, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The feather's light was steady now, its glow warm and comforting. She knew the darkness was gone, and the swan's magic was safe. As she made her way back to the village, the forest seemed brighter, the shadows gone. The stream flowed clear and pure, its water reflecting the moonlight like liquid silver. When she reached the lake, the swan was waiting for her, its silver wings glowing with renewed strength. "Thank you, Amara," the swan said, its voice filled with gratitude. "You have saved not just me, but the village as well. The darkness is gone, and the lake is pure once more." Amara smiled, her heart swelling with relief and pride. She had done it. She had uncovered the secret of the silver-winged swan and brought light back to the village. In the days that followed, the village flourished, its beauty and magic restored. The swan, its strength renewed, continued to appear under the light of the full moon, its presence a reminder of the power of hope and love. Amara, the girl who had faced her fears and uncovered the truth, became a legend in her own right. Her story was passed down through generations, a reminder that even in the darkest times, there is always a way to bring light back into the world. And so, the village by the lake thrived, its light a beacon of hope in the night. The silver-winged swan, once fading, now shone brighter than ever, and Amara, the girl who had saved it, continued to sit by the lake every full moon, her heart filled with wonder and gratitude. The end. Whispering Garden. In a quiet valley hidden between rolling hills, there was a garden no one spoke about. It was not marked on any map, nor mentioned in any book. Travelers passed by the valley without noticing it, as though something gentle and unseen guided their eyes elsewhere. Yet, for those who wandered just a little too far off the path, the garden revealed itself. It always appeared at dusk. The air there was soft and still, as if time itself had slowed to rest. Tall trees formed a circle around the garden, their branches arching overhead like a silent canopy. Beneath them, flowers of every kind grew in quiet harmony, glowing faintly in shades of silver, pale gold, and soft blue. And among the flowers, there was a sound, a whisper, not loud enough to understand, but gentle enough to be felt. No one stayed long enough to listen. except for a girl named Ailin. Ailin had always been quiet, not out of fear, but because she preferred the spaces between words. She lived in a small cottage at the edge of the valley, where the mornings were calm and the nights stretched long and peaceful. She had heard stories, of course. Villagers spoke in half-sentences about a place that should not be entered, a place where things were forgotten. Ailin never believed them, not fully. But one evening, as the sky faded into soft shades of violet and blue, she found herself walking beyond the usual path. There was no reason for it, no sudden decision, just a quiet pull, like a thought she hadn't noticed forming. And then she saw it. The garden. It did not feel strange. It felt familiar. Ailin stepped inside. The moment her foot touched the soft grass, the whispering grew clearer. Not louder, but closer, as though the sound had been waiting for her. She paused, listening. At first, it was nothing but fragments, soft syllables drifting through the air. But as she walked deeper, the whispers began to take shape. Names, dozens of them, spoken gently, like memories being remembered. Ailin moved slowly between the flowers, her fingers brushing their petals. Each one seemed to respond, glowing a little brighter as she passed. Then she heard one name more clearly than the others. It was hers. Ailin. She stopped. The sound was not frightening. It was warm, almost kind, like someone calling her from far away. She turned, expecting to see someone behind her, but there was no one. Only the trees, the soft light, and the quiet breathing of the garden. Ailin! This time, the voice felt closer. She followed it. At the center of the garden, there stood a single tree, taller than all the rest. Its branches stretched wide, its leaves shimmering like distant stars. Beneath it, the ground was bare, as though something important had once rested there. The whispers gathered around the tree. Ailin stepped closer, her heart steady, her thoughts calm. As she reached the base of the tree, the air seemed to settle completely. The whispers faded, leaving only a gentle silence. And in that silence, she understood. This was not a place that took things away. It was a place that held them. Every forgotten name, every lost memory, every quiet moment that had slipped unnoticed through time. It all rested here, gently preserved. Ailin knelt beside the tree, placing her hand against its smooth bark. For a moment, she felt something shift. A memory, soft and distant. A day she had long forgotten, running through a field as a child, laughing at something she could no longer recall. The warmth of the sun, the feeling of grass beneath her feet. It returned to her, whole and clear. She smiled. The garden did not whisper to confuse or to take. It whispered to remind. Slowly, Ailin stood. The sky above had deepened into night, stars appearing one by one between the branches. The garden seemed quieter now, its purpose fulfilled for the moment. She took one last look at the tree. "Thank you," she whispered. The garden did not answer, but it didn't need to. As Ailin walked back toward the edge of the valley, the whispers softened again, fading into the distance like a dream gently ending. The path home felt shorter than before. When she reached her cottage, she paused at the door, looking back toward the hills. The garden was no longer visible. It had returned to its hidden stillness, but she knew it was there, waiting, not for everyone, but for those who needed to remember something they didn't know they had lost. That night, as Ailin lay in bed, the world felt quieter than usual. Not empty, but complete. And somewhere far beyond the hills, in a garden that only appeared at dusk, the whispers continued, soft, patient, and kind, holding every name that had ever been forgotten. until the moment it was needed again. In a quiet, silent light. In a quiet valley where the nights were longer than the days, there was a path that only appeared when the world had grown still. No one knew where it began, and no one ever spoke of where it might lead. Most people never noticed it at all. But one evening, as the sky softened into shades of deep blue and silver, a girl named Leora saw it for the first time. She had been walking home, her thoughts drifting gently like clouds, when a faint glow caught her eye. It was not bright nor sudden, but steady and calm, like a light that had always been there, simply waiting to be seen. Curious, she stepped closer. The path was narrow, winding quietly between the trees, its edges lined with small, glowing lights that hovered just above the ground. They flickered softly, not like fire, but like something alive and patient. Leora hesitated. The village behind her was quiet, its windows glowing faintly in the distance. Everything familiar was there, safe, still, unchanged. And yet, the path felt just as safe, not calling her forward, not pulling her in, just waiting. So she took a step. The moment her foot touched the path, the world behind her seemed to soften. The sounds of the village faded, not disappearing, but becoming distant, as though wrapped in gentle silence. She walked slowly, her breath steady, her eyes following the small lights that drifted beside her. They moved in no clear pattern, yet they never left her side. After a while, she noticed something else. The path did not feel long. Though she had been walking for some time, there was no sense of distance, no feeling of being far from where she had started, only the quiet rhythm of her steps. Eventually, the trees began to open. Ahead of her, the path widened into a small clearing. In its center stood a single lantern, resting on a low stone. Its light was soft and warm, unlike the gentle glow that had guided her here. This light felt closer, more familiar. Leora approached it slowly. As she reached out her hand, the lantern brightened just slightly, as though it recognized her. She paused, her fingers just above the glass. And then, without thinking, she touched it. The light did not burn. Instead, it shifted. For a moment, the clearing seemed to blur, the edges of the world softening like a memory being recalled. And then, she saw something. A quiet moment from long ago. She was younger, sitting beside her mother near the window, listening to the sound of rain, the warmth of the room, the gentle voice beside her, the feeling of being completely at ease. It had been a small moment, one she had not thought of in years, yet here it was, clear and whole. Leora blinked, and the clearing returned. The lantern dimmed slightly, its light settling back into stillness. She stepped back, her heart calm, her thoughts quiet. The path had not brought her somewhere new. It had shown her something she had forgotten. She looked down at the lights that still hovered beside her. They seemed softer now, as though their purpose was nearly complete. Without rushing, she turned back toward the path. The way home felt just as gentle as the way in. The lights guided her once more, never pushing, never pulling, only staying near. As she walked, the world slowly returned. The distant shapes of trees became clearer, the quiet sounds of the night settling around her once more. And then, just as softly as it had appeared, the path faded. Leora found herself standing at the edge of the valley, the familiar road stretching ahead. Behind her, there was nothing but stillness. No path, no lights, only the quiet night. She did not feel surprised, only calm. When she reached her home, she paused at the door, her hand resting lightly against the wood. For a moment, She closed her eyes. The memory from the lantern lingered, not as something distant, but as something present, warm, steady, unchanged. She stepped inside. That night, as she lay in bed, the world felt softer than before. Not quieter, but more complete. And somewhere beyond the edge of sight, in a place where paths appeared only when they were needed, the silent light waited once more. Not to lead anyone away, but to guide them gently back to something they had forgotten. And when the time was right, it would appear again, soft, patient, and quietly glowing in the dark. Forgot Time. In a quiet town where the days passed gently and the nights stretched long and still, there stood an old clock tower at the edge of the square. It had been there for as long as anyone could remember. Tall and silent, with ivy climbing its stone walls, the tower watched over the town without ever changing. Its clock face, once bright and golden, had softened over the years into a muted glow that only seemed to come alive after sunset. During the day, the clock ticked as expected. Steady, reliable, ordinary. But at night, something was different. The ticking slowed. Sometimes, it stopped entirely. And on certain evenings, when the air was calm and the sky was clear, the clock seemed to forget time altogether. Most people never noticed. They slept through it, wrapped in quiet dreams. But a boy named Ellen did. Ellen lived in a small house just across from the square, where the sound of the clock had always been a part of his days. It marked his mornings, his meals, his evenings, and for a long time, he had never thought about it. Until one night, when he woke and heard nothing at all. No ticking, no movement, only silence. He sat up slowly, listening. The room was still, the world outside resting in its usual calm. But the absence of the clock felt noticeable, like something important had quietly stepped away. Ellen stood and walked to the window. The tower stood as it always had, tall against the night sky. The clock face glowed faintly, but its hands were still, not broken, just unmoving. Curious, he stepped outside. The air was cool, carrying the soft scent of night flowers and distant trees. The square was empty, the stones beneath his feet holding the warmth of the day that had passed. He walked toward the tower, his steps slow and steady. As he drew closer, he noticed something unusual. The light from the clock was different, softer, warmer, almost like a quiet invitation. He reached the door at the base of the tower. It was slightly open. Ellen hesitated for a moment, his hand resting gently against the wood. The silence inside was deeper than the silence outside, as though the space within the tower held its own kind of stillness. Then, without hurry, he stepped inside. The air was calm and cool, filled with the faint scent of old wood and stone. A narrow staircase curved upward along the wall, leading toward the clock above. And from somewhere higher up, there was a soft glow. Not bright, not sharp, just enough to guide him. Ellen began to climb. Each step felt quiet beneath his feet, the world below fading as he moved higher. The sound of his breathing, the gentle rhythm of his movement, these were the only things that remained. When he reached the top, he found himself in a small room just behind the clock face. And there, at the center of the room, was something he had never expected. The clock was not made of gears alone. It was filled with light, soft, drifting light that moved slowly, like floating dust caught in a beam of sun. It did not spin or turn. It simply existed, shifting gently within the space. Ellen stepped closer. The hands of the clock stood still, suspended in place, but the light continued to move. As he watched, he began to understand. The clock had not stopped. it had simply paused. Not because it was broken, but because it no longer needed to move. For a moment, Ellen felt something settle within him, a quiet awareness. Time was still passing, even if the hands were not. The night was still unfolding. The world was still resting. And in this space, there was no need to measure it. He sat down beside the soft glow, his back resting lightly against the wall. The silence did not feel empty. It felt complete, like a moment that did not need to end. Minutes passed, or perhaps something else entirely. Ellen did not try to count. Eventually, the light within the clock began to shift. Not suddenly, not sharply, just enough to suggest that something was gently returning. The hands moved, slowly, quietly, resuming their place without resistance. The ticking followed, soft at first, then steady. Ellen stood, watching as the clock returned to its familiar rhythm. Nothing had changed, and yet everything felt different. He made his way back down the staircase, his steps unhurried, his thoughts calm. When he stepped outside, the square was just as he had left it. The night air, the quiet buildings, the distant glow of windows, it was all the same. But the silence he had noticed before was gone. The ticking had returned, and it sounded softer now, gentler, as though it no longer needed to remind anyone of its presence. Ellen walked back to his home, the tower behind him once again still and quiet. At the door, he paused, not because something was missing, but because nothing was. That night, as he lay in bed, the sound of the clock faded into the background once more. Not gone, just part of everything. And somewhere within the tower, the light continued to drift softly, waiting for the next moment when time would no longer need to be measured, only felt, and gently allowed to pass. Ellen remained still for a moment longer, listening as the steady ticking settled into the quiet of the tower. It no longer sounded like something that measured his time. It sounded like something that simply existed alongside it. He stepped closer once more, drawn not by curiosity now, but by a calm understanding. The light within the clock had softened again, returning to its slow, drifting movement. It did not seem concerned with the hands or the rhythm that had resumed. It continued as it always had, unhurried, undisturbed. For a while, Ellen stood there without thinking of anything at all. The night outside continued, though he did not feel its passing. The silence inside the tower wrapped around him gently, like a quiet space that asked for nothing in return. He noticed small details he had not seen before, the faint lines in the wood of the walls, shaped by time and touch, the soft way the air moved when he shifted his weight. Even the ticking itself had a softness now, as though it had learned to exist without urgency. He placed his hand lightly against the edge of the clock. The surface was cool, but not cold. It felt steady, grounded. Not like something mechanical, but something that had been there long before anyone had thought to measure the hours. A thought came to him then, simple and quiet. Perhaps the clock did not forget time. Perhaps it remembered something else. He did not try to define the thought further. It stayed with him just long enough to feel understood, and then it drifted away like everything else in the tower. After some time, he turned toward the staircase again. The descent felt slower than before, not because the steps had changed, but because there was no reason to hurry. Each step was clear, each movement complete on its own. When he reached the door, he paused once more. The square outside was unchanged. The same stones, the same buildings, the same distant glow of windows where others slept or rested in their own quiet ways. But the space between those things felt different now. Softer, more open. He stepped out into the night. The air met him gently, carrying the quiet sounds of leaves shifting somewhere far off, and the faint presence of the world settling into rest. Behind him, the clock continued its steady rhythm. He listened to it for a moment, not counting the seconds, not marking the distance between them, just listening. Then he began to walk. His steps followed no particular path at first. He moved through the square, past the familiar corners and quiet edges, noticing how each place held its own kind of stillness. Nothing demanded his attention. Nothing needed to be done. It was simply enough to be there. Eventually, he found himself near the edge of the town, where the ground gave way to open fields. The horizon stretched quietly beneath the night sky, the stars scattered gently above. He stood there for a while, looking out without searching for anything. The feeling from the tower remained with him, not as a thought, but as a kind of quiet presence. Time was still passing. The night would move toward morning. The days would continue as they always had, but none of it felt pressing. None of it needed to be held on to. After a while, he turned back toward his home. The streets were empty, the doors closed, the windows dim. The world rested without effort, without needing to keep track of itself. When he reached his door, he opened it slowly, stepping inside as though he did not want to disturb the calm he carried with him. The room was just as he had left it. Simple. Still. He lay down once more, the sound of the clock returning faintly through the walls. But now, it blended into everything else. It was no longer something separate, no longer something that needed to be followed. It was simply there. And as his eyes grew heavy, the space between each tick seemed to widen, not because the clock had slowed, but because he no longer measured it. Sleep came quietly, without effort, without thought. And somewhere within the tower, the soft drifting light continued its gentle movement, waiting for the next moment when someone might need to step outside of time, if only for a little while.